75 watts on 70 centimeters, and I believe it's 10 watts on 23 centimeters.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Yeah, I do have a squared Yagi for 23 centimeters. I actually have it pointed to Mount Diablo. I used it with when Tim Barrett had the D-Star, when he had MDD D-Star up on I guess it was a North Peak a long time ago.
What is the deal with 220? My ICOM 4100 won't do 220 either, and I have the impression it's common for these rigs not to touch 220. And I wonder what's going on there.
Because 220 is, it's not an international allocation for amateur radio. There's only a few countries that have been allocated to 220. The United States is one of them. I think that's because they make these radios for a lot of countries. It's international.
Well, ICOM has not touched 220 on any of the radios as far as I know.
But if you want a 2-meter radio, at least FM only, Alinco makes one. They make Alinco makes a mobile that's very good. And I have one of those. So occasionally I'll check into the 610 net and on weekdays on that Alinco.
I've got a fan.
Oh yeah, that's right. They do 220 as well. The Chinese radios have 2-meter 220 configuration and 2-meter 440. That's right.
That's right, and it's a good radio.
Yeah, the receiver is really hot on those handhelds.
Yeah, you've got a microphone and a handset, and then you've got a remote microphone, and then you've got an earpiece.
The only thing about those, kind of hard to program, but
hard to program. I took it to Dick Wade, and he programmed it for me.
Oh, very good.
It'd be nice if ICOM did recognize 220 and also 33 centimeters. I do have an Alinco handheld that does both of those bands and only those bands.
I have one of those too, and really? They don't make them anymore.
No, they were selling them out at HRO for $200 several years ago, which was a big drop from what the original price was. So I put that to do in contesting.
What's interesting is that the antenna, that the rubber duck that comes with that radio, is like a little bulge, almost close to the top. So I don't know what that's, some type of coil or something, whatever capacity or whatever on the antenna that's designed for 220 33 centimeters there. It's kind of interesting antenna. So you can never get that rubber duck stuff with any of the rubber ducks for any of the other radios because it has a distinct bulge at the top.
I found out that Diamond had an antenna for that radio, specifically for that radio. So I bought it, and that's what I use.
Oh, okay. But the problem is, I've got, I guess, was it N6SSB has a, I don't know if he still has a repeater on that band on 3 centimeters, but boy, there's a lot of interference, because there's a lot of Part 15 devices within that amateur allocation, so I'm getting a lot of interference.
Yeah, I've taken that handheld up to Mount Diablo during VHF contests. And several years ago, probably around 2016, I managed to work a couple of guys up in the mountains east of Fresno and Delta Mike 06. Worked them with the handheld on 220.
Oh wow!
5-watt handheld. They were operating, I guess, mobile.
Yeah.
And that was a bit of a shocker.
By the way, I could throw, if I don't mind, throw a QST, the San Francisco Radio Club, which I'm going to try to attend tonight as well. They're having a special event tomorrow called what is it, Perfecta or something? I forgot. I have to take a look at it up. But anyway, they're going to set up portable stations around the various parks within the city and county of San Francisco and be operating DC to daylight from 10 a.m. Pacific time to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So no specific frequencies, but they'll be active. I would imagine on 2 meters and 440, they'll be on the standard, simplex frequencies, maybe on the calling frequencies, maybe not, but I know there's a lot more simplex frequencies that they're not considered calling frequencies on meters. So like 146.55 and 49 and also HF. So I'm going to be operating for about an hour at my QTH because I'm at the base of one of those parks, Mount Davidson. So I really don't have to go anywhere, but I'll operate battery. So I'm somewhat honest. So if anybody's busy on hands and wants to give a couple of points to the San Francisco Radio Club for their portable operation, their special event, I think each individual will be using their own call. They're not going to be using the club call, W6BW. So they'll just have to identify themselves what the event is, but they'll be using their own call each station. And information is on the SFARC website, sfarc.org. It's on the front page. You want to find out a little bit more about the event. Hi, Lauren. I guess things are still green for the camp out. I don't know. They already put it in for the second weekend in June, Lauren. I don't know what's the status of me. Maybe I'll go up for the day. I don't know yet.
Yeah, I don't know either. I may be having eye surgery somewhere around then.
Oh, really? Yeah. So I'm not too sure what I want to do. I'll be getting my second shot next Wednesday of the Pfizer. So I'll be, I guess 2 weeks after that, theoretically you're protected.
Dave, N6ORB, you asked me what my grid locator number was?
Yeah.
CN7 4XK.
Oh, 74. Okay. Yeah, I looked at the grid map. I thought that was probably 73, but okay, 74.
And I believe the person who just lives up the street from me here, he told once before, this is some years ago, that he was the only ham operator in this grid.
Wow.
It's pretty rare.
Yeah, hot catch.
But when I did what's it called, Tetra maps or whatever it was called, looking at where people are located, it showed a couple of other hams in this general vicinity. So I'm not so sure he was the only one. Maybe he's the only one operating HF. Maybe he's the only one that's doing HF. I don't know.
Harry, what's your internet connection like up there? You got what kind of bandwidth do you have there in that part of Oregon?
About that big? This is with Spectrum, I guess, Spectrum 98. We've had a couple of problems in the past with some of the bandwidth, and it's worked out better this time because when I was here last year, I was working out of the garage. But they have offered me the use of the tape here and off the kitchen area, so that's worked out pretty good. Besides, it's a lot warmer. So, but I must have taken, I don't know how much, everything I could think of getting in the truck radio-wise, I just have not used it. I'm kind of got lazy or I didn't want to get cold and wet or whatever.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it's a nice drive going up there. I did it once, all the way up 101.
Yeah,
Astoria into Washington State.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a 13-hour drive for me, partly because I have my dog with me, and so I'm going to use the excuse my dog has to take a lot of pit stops.
That's not bad on 101, actually.
I'm going to blame it on the dog. I have to blame it on the dog. And
you go up all the way up 1, or do you take up 5 then cut over?
I take up 5 and cut over at Sutherland.
Okay.
And my dog did see snow for the very first time. And this is a Jack Russell Beagle mix, and she does not like getting wet. Although if it's a question of chasing a ball, she'll go anything to get a ball. But she wasn't too impressed with the snow.
From my QTH in San Francisco, we could actually see snow on some peaks of the Diablo range.
Yeah.
Overlooking Fremont now. Nothing on Mount Diablo, obviously, but over on the southern peaks there of the Diablo range, I saw some snow about a week ago.
Very nice. Very nice.
Well, Larry, do you know a guy, W3 X-Ray Sierra in Waldport?
Yeah, he is on Bay Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just up the street from me because I'm on Jones Court, which is just down maybe 200 feet from him.
He's very active on 6 meters.
Is he really?
Oh yeah, I've worked him several times. Often I fail because I don't know, he doesn't hear me very well. I don't know if he's behind a hill or what the deal.
No, there's not much of a hill there, but you know what? His antenna is on a extension ladder. So what I should do for you, I should take a couple of pictures of his QTH so you would have an idea what you're talking to.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
He's on quite a lot. I've worked him on meter scatter and on FT8. I don't know that I've ever worked him on phone.
Yeah, I met him a couple of years ago. I haven't kind of, reacquainted myself since I've been back, more so because of the pandemic and just for the social distancing and stuff. But I know he does some moon bounce stuff. I heard he told me before he did some moon bounce. So,
okay, that's interesting that you're so close to this guy.
Well, I'll throw a rock at him and then at his house, and when he comes out and complains, tell him that N60RB did it for him.
Right. On behalf of N60RB.
Exactly. I'm not going to say on behalf of. I'm going to say I'm going to tell him I'm N60RB.
Oh, I see.
I'll give him the counterfeit call sign. So, all right. Some people tried to give me put up your call signs if you can. I've seen a number of people that were there without showing their call sign. If you just right click on your video image and then type in your call sign next to your first name. Good evening, Jim, K6SOE. Good to see you. And obviously Brian is on the cold riverfront again. He's going to go out and do some ice fishing right after we get off the call, I'm sure. So I don't know where everybody else went. Okay. Meeting's adjourned. Bye. Oh. So Jan, you got K6MM set up okay?
Yes. It works really good. He's been doing it for quite a while.
Yeah, I think you're good. But you never know. Sometimes there's could be a glitch depending on new circumstances and whatever. So, I mean,
I'm pretty sure he can. Okay.
That's why we have That's why we have nets, right? Weekly nets, just to make sure the equipment's still working properly. So.
That's right.
So, yeah, I meant to go in yesterday with Echolink to the MDARC net, but sometimes it's not easy to do that here. Not for the internet, just other things going on.
Yeah, I'm guilty not to be active lately. I made a pledge to change it a couple months ago, and I still can't remember on every Thursday. I have to.
Yeah,
I guess I put a note to my calendar. I should have.
Yeah, you can set yourself an alarm on your phone, and then when it comes up, just turn it off.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Sean, how you doing? Well, we really appreciated the project you were working on.
Thanks.
Very good. Very, very interesting. Very innovative. So I guess I did have a question, Sean, though, about your project. How would that work through, because I do a lot of public service, or used to, And it didn't, obviously, in 2020, but 2021, probably the latter part of the year, we'll be picking up some more public service opportunities. How would that work through repeater systems?
Oh, the module we use can switch frequencies pretty quickly and can do PL tones, so it can work through a repeater just fine as long as you set it up properly. Most
of the things that I'm doing either here in Contra Costa County or even Marin County, you really can't do using simplex. You've got to be on, using the repeater system.
All the code I wrote for it is custom, so I can add in features as I want as long as the chip can actually do it.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, I did send it to the people who are the public service administrators with the Marin Amateur Radio Society, so they have the information that I've seen posted so far. So as we get closer to the the end of the year, when we do have some and maybe they have a monthly, I think it's the third Sunday of every month, the North Bay 2-meter critical mass, they call it, which is a very nice way for people particularly people who are involved in public service, can get some training. They usually when it is person to person, actually physically meet someplace in Marin. But now, of course, it's being done virtually. But maybe the items that you were showing in the project, maybe that's something that they can give it a test. Give it a test. See how it works out with, in a real-life situation. So, or a dry run situation, I guess, amongst several public service members. So, thank you. So Randy, I don't know where you got that invisible paint, but I want to get some, because sometimes I like to be invisible myself because I don't see you there, Mr. Graham. So maybe he's hiding behind that chair. I don't know.
He was there a minute ago. You did get the name changed. It said Ann Graham a minute ago.
Yeah, no, well, at least we got that part taken care of. Yeah, and so I want to remove the last names because otherwise we're going to get too much, not enough real estate to show everybody. So Lauren, what have you been up to?
Just working on the radios and getting stuff done around the house. That's it. And of course the first night program. Thank you for sending it.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that works out by sending it to presenters as a link to my OneDrive account. So it actually makes it easier for me to do it that way. And also, we can sort of edit on the fly as we need to, because I always edit within the account. So, and then you'll have the latest and the greatest, hopefully. So maybe I missed some things while I was, you see, I did make some, my dad reminded me after I threw up some cardboard behind me, behind the Venetian blinds here, that he has some Mylar screens that come down over the windows because his house faces directly into the west. So he gets a lot of, he gets a lot of sun in the evening. So they put Mylar sheeting there that you can screen that you can just pull down. So I think it helped a lot. So I don't look like I'm hidden in a closet someplace. So, so maybe I was doing that. I missed some conversations about what's been new for you guys with amateur radio. Quick question for Lauren. Lauren, I know you said that you had programmed all the repeaters from here to the moon, and you push on HT. Do you have WC PRA in there?
I only have a couple up in the Oregon, Washington area, mostly just Northern California, and I don't remember. There's like, I think I have like 800.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot to keep care of. I'm going to pull up their link because I have quite a few of their, so I can get that up here. Well, there we go. I'm going to pull it up, and I'm going to do a share screen, I think. So you should be seeing what I'm seeing now. Does everybody see the thing I'm displaying from the web page? Nod your head, say yes or no. Don't say it. So this is something you might want to consider. This W7PRA, for example. I have this program into my FT, my Yaesu is an FTM 400 DR in a mobile unit in my truck, and I have I have every one of these. I programmed every single one of these on my radio. And which is kind of nice because there's a repeater here in Newport, 15 miles north of me, and I was listening to somebody from Pasadena. So it's very popular. It seems like it's a very popular linked system. And there is the web page right up here at the top, if you're at all interested. Not sure which train comes into the picture, but I guess you can use a radio on a little backyard train or wherever. And so anyway, it is very, I say, let me click on one of them here. Let me see if I can find the one that I have. And I don't see it right off the bat. It say Corvallis.
All these systems are linked together?
These are all together. So it's kind of nice if you travel, as you travel, you can pretty much stay in contact with all of these repeaters. So anyway, I just sort of throw that up there in case anybody was interested there in doing something similar. I did find out that I had one of the DCS tones incorrect. I wasn't hearing anything on this local repeater, and so I went back to the repeater guy, looked it up again, saw what the DCS tone was, so I went and checked within the radio and found out that within my radio, found out that I had missed it by 1 digit when I inputted it in originally. In my, I think I was using RT systems for that particular model radio. So when I get home, I'll have to fix it. So Jeff, you got to share whatever you're eating. You got to share. So if there's ice cream involved here, I can't see what it is. What is it, Jeff?
This is, I'm on Weight Watch.
Okay.
This is one of their smart ones, a couple of enchiladas.
Oh, very nice.
Now, if you want, I can splatter it on my camera for you.
I would like you to do that. It's your camera. Let's go ahead and do it. And I'll wipe it off at this end.
I have a feeling it might be rude to eat in front of you, so I'm going to turn off my video.
Oh, that's okay. I think Jan was eating in front of us too. So, but I know it's kind of tough. You got to kind of squeeze in the meals.
Does DCS imply, was it DRM or DMR?
DCS is like a tone squelch, but
I know exactly. It's digital tone. It's a
digital tone, correct?
Yeah, it does not apply to DMR. It applies to regular analog FM.
Correct.
Oh, okay. It's a subaudible, still digital though.
Yes, yeah, it's a digital version of PL.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thanks.
Yeah. When I really love the radio, this FTM 400DR that I have in my truck. But like any radio, if you don't have to go in that many times and make changes, there's a learning curve, right? That you have to relearn again. And so I'm always glad I keep in the truck right near the radio a nifty manual that, gives you easy, quick steps to do the major operations within your radio that you're most likely to do. And it really helped us last time. I was glad it was there. So
the meeting can be recorded at all?
No.
No?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know what Jim's doing. Jim, are you recording it? What are you doing, Jim?
He's unmuted. Or muted.
Okay. It's going through both the repeater and I've got it up on YouTube.
Okay. Actually, I could probably have it on YouTube in the background when I attend the SFRC meeting.
But
Okay.
are you recording, Jim, or just streaming?
Just trying to figure it out.
Can't find the mute button.
The mute button's at the top of your image on the right-hand side.
I think he's trying to find out.
Yeah, but
He's not trying to unmute. He's just trying to find out if he is.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be the case that if you had it streamed on YouTube that it's saving that file?
I don't know that YouTube automatically saves a stream.
Oh.
It does.
I think you have to tell it to.
It does?
I don't know.
It does. YouTube saves it as a video, so you can download that if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I thought that would be okay.
Sean, if you're streaming live, what if you don't want to save it? You just want to stream.
I believe there's an option for that, but by default, YouTube saves it as a video.
Okay. I can find them on our YouTube channel. So maybe Jim has chosen that option.
We need a Patreon sponsor. That's what we need, too. So I'm going to turn this light down a bit. See if I can make this a little better. There we go. Going to open up some things to prepare us for our meeting 7. Well, so Keith.
Hi, good to see you guys again.
You have to go for your 100th question for the evening. Do you have it?
Giving you a break.
We're never going to let you live that down. You know that.
I'll torture you on the amateur extra class upgrade.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I want to ask you, to do DMR, I just got myself a DMR radio, but it didn't come with the hotspot. You don't need that to get on a DMR, like the repeater, let's say. If it's a DMR repeater, you should.
Yeah, you don't need a hotspot if you can reach a repeater.
Okay.
Hotspot kind of is in place of a repeater, in a sense.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
There's lots of DMR repeaters in the area, for sure.
Okay. Did you get a VHF or UHF or dual band?
I bought the RFinder B1, so I guess that's a dual band. Weighing over my head. Weighing over my head.
And radio for millennials.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got
on Mount Diablo is VHF, but most of the others are UHF.
Okay.
Keith, you get a code plug for that?
I guess this one you don't have to have code plugs. It's supposed to have it automatically.
Really?
Yeah.
How can I have programmed in the
It's that
repeaters?
it uses RFinder.
Oh, wow.
Brings it up automatically. Yeah, there wasn't much to a manual to it, so I'll play with it this week and see. I'm a little bit leery.
Well, you know, there are people who criticize RFinder for its accuracy.
I have a question. Yeah, I'm noticing that too. And I think I've been bamboozled. Oh shoot, we lost it.
Yeah, I've got a couple of DMR radios. So Mike Warren's really very knowledgeable of DMR. And,
actually, there will be a presentation coming up on DMR in June. So far, it's not listed yet. Jim Siemens, I scheduled Jim Siemens for that.
Yeah, that's
good. He just asked me about email, so I will answer.
Yeah, if you get back to me and all that stuff, appreciate it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think
you schedule something. Don't forget me. Let me know as soon as you schedule a speaker, and I'll put them on the website.
Okay.
Yeah, and if we get it on the website and publish it so much, then the person will be embarrassed to come. So, but one thing I do think we need for the DMR presentation is the basics: how to do it, how to get on it, to make it sort of easy on type. Seems to me like if we get too complicated, I'm sorry, for me personally, I just blank out.
There's so many different models of radios, and they all have their own unique code plug configuration. That's what makes it challenging.
Yeah. Well, I got the the 898, and I think I got a couple other ones as well, TYT, something else, a number of different ones. Stay tuned for our future auctions. Good evening, Pete. We see you. I sent you an email.
Howdy. Just a couple minutes ago?
I just sent it to you just now.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe it's a telegram. Maybe there's a knock on your door. You hear any knocking on your door?
No, there's too many Amazon delivery trucks in front of my house right now. There's no...
Oh, what you're saying is one Amazon truck and about 4 or 5 package thefts. Package thieves following them.
Yeah, it's very, very busy.
My cul-de-sac is an Amazon highway, and none of those items delivered were for me. It's amazing.
Well, you do have to order, Dave. That's the way it works.
No, I have my own order. I mean, I've been getting my stuff from Amazon.
Oh.
It's been busy. The whole cul-de-sac has been ordering from Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon probably been a boon for them.
The funny thing at my age, when I order something, by the time it comes, I can't remember what I ordered, so it's like Christmas every day.
I have the Amazon Prime, so I get the movies, the free movies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
If you're on Amazon Prime, it definitely is not free.
No.
Well, no, you get other benefits too. You get discounts and so forth. The movies are included. Complimentary.
Price for all.
Sorry about my choice of words. I stand corrected.
It's a good deal.
Hey, Larry.
Yes.
Well, we've got just for the meeting. Give me permission to record, please.
What are you going to report on?
On my computer.
Okay, so I'm not sure what you're asking me to do.
Permission to record the business part of the meeting.
I'm sorry, I thought you said I'm sorry. I'm doing too many things at one time. You know how it is. We multitask.
I know.
I'm the kid of the 40s. We had to learn to multitask at a very early age. But I'll give you that right now, Brian. And as I told Jan earlier, I'll be looking for the check in the mail to allow me to do this for you. So let's see. Allow to.
You can also look for mail in the mail.
Oh no! Well, fortunately, we don't get mail here, so that's okay. It'll just fall off. So, Brian, I think you're able to record now. So.
Yes, it's possible.
Good. Jim, good evening.
Good evening, Larry and NARC and MDARC.
Yeah, this is not the narco squad. You got the wrong Zoom meeting. You're looking for the narco squad.
I was just, I just had that on my mind. So.
Speaking of payments, is that right? So, look, we're getting some more people on board here. That's good. Good evening, Michelle. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Nice to have you. And Randy, whatever she's bringing you a drink, I think I need one too.
I'm going to bow out about 5 minutes or so, but hopefully I'll be able to watch the YouTube on demand or whatever.
Well, how long is your meeting? Your other meeting?
I think it's going to go on till it starts at 7 o'clock, and who knows what it ends? 8 o'clock, 8:30.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate for up to years the SFRC meetings are on the third Friday of the month, just like MDARC.
Oh, got it.
But I haven't been on an SFRC meeting this year so far. There's nothing interests me, but they have a presentation that interests me.
So, Dave, you had commented about Jim Brunk's information about that training class, right? August the 10th and 11th rather than the 11th. I mean, April 10th and 11th rather than 11th and 12th. Is that right? Was that you that I saw who replied back to Dave? WA?
No, it wasn't me.
Wasn't you? Okay. I think there was an Aries training session for 2 days in April.
No, that wasn't me.
That Jim had said, and somebody had sent out a correction on the dates. Because I would like to, attend it myself. Especially if it's, like in a nice tropical climate someplace where I can jump on a plane and fly someplace. So.
Well, the microwave on, I thought occasionally when microwave on, I lose the Wi-Fi to the laptop, which is kind of strange since I'm on 5 gigs. I wonder if it's a harmonic of the microwave that's getting into the 5 gig band.
Oh, I don't know.
That's weird.
The 2.4 of the microwave might just be raising the noise floor.
It could be. You think so, Jim? Yeah, it's possible. Because I don't think the second harmonic is anywhere near the Wi-Fi 5 gig band. I'm not sure. It could be just overload, as you say.
Larry?
Yes.
So you're joining us from Oregon today?
Yep, we even have Wi-Fi here.
I don't recognize the backdrop there. You're usually in the garage in Oregon, aren't you?
Well, my dad said I could use the table in the dining area to set up my computer and stuff. So originally I had actually brought a table up this time, set up in the garage, but it's a lot warmer in the house.
Well, that's very nice of him to let you come in the house.
Yeah, it was very nice. Yeah. Now I didn't say anything about sleeping. It is tough sleeping out in the truck. That's tough. Well, actually, I'm going to be coming home next week.
Oh, that's good.
Much earlier though. I thought I was going to be here for like 2 months, and I got here 2 weeks ago, and let me give you a hint. Don't tell anybody. When you go to travel and you get to the airport or you get to the border, make sure your passport has not expired. So my brother discovered that when he got to he actually was in Phoenix going to go across the Mexican border to his sailboat to work on it. That, my passport, it's expired. So, and I think, if I recall, they're requiring now for you to have at least 6 months of time still left on your passport before you could travel internationally.
Oh, my goodness.
The idea that you don't want to go to another country and then have your passport expire. They want you to be able to get back into the country.
There's a 6-month buffer, I think.
Yeah, it's a 6-month buffer, exactly. So anyway, it takes a long time to get another get it renewed. fact, my dad and I were in the post office today, and we asked the postal person, how long does it take? He says, about 14 weeks. If you expedite it, it takes 4 to 6 weeks. So my brother decided to just come back from Phoenix. So he'll be back on Monday, and I will stay here with my brother for a couple of days, and then he'll stay here, and I will return home to cause trouble in California.
Do you bring any, you don't bring any HF radio equipment up there, do you?
You came in late to the program, but I had so much stuff with me that I haven't even taken out of the boots I packed all in. My KX2, I got a Connect system, you know, all you know, QRP stuff. I had thought about buying a FT 891 before I came up, but then I thought, you know, nah, I don't want to put money out right now. And yeah, I had all that stuff. And I brought my portable VHF, UHF equipment, and the only radio I've been using is what's in my truck, my FTM 400DR, my Yaesu, and mobile rig. It's the only one I've been really using. So.
How about antenna? You brought some kind of HF antenna in your suitcase?
Yeah, I brought, actually what I have is 2 jack kite poles, a 32-footer and a 26-footer, and I have the, you know, the umbrella type base, and I have a 20, you know, the 20-meter infed, and that'll learn from Dave that I have. I just, it's been rainy here. You know, you go outside, it's cold. It's just not that comfortable outside. And I guess I'm just not a real ham operator. I don't want to get out in the snow and in my short sleeves and do radio stuff. So anyway.
I'm going to go ahead and take off.
All
John's
right.
going to put on an outstanding presentation. I think it's the same presentation. John, is that the same presentation you did with the San Francisco Radio Club a few years ago?
Yes, it is, Dave.
Yeah, it is. It was just fantastic. Would really love to see it again, but SFRC meeting tonight.
It's a group. Good for you.
Good group. Anyway, we'll catch you guys later. Maybe I'll watch this on YouTube later on if it's available.
Bye.
Yep, remember.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah, Shem at MDARC.
Well, we got about 3 minutes before official start time for our general membership meeting. So anybody want to quickly add anything? Oh, he's kind of stuck in that web. Hope you can get out of there or don't get hit by a proton or electron or something.
Since we're talking about DX tonight, and I was happy to work Navassa Island in 3 bands, so that was a thrill when that happened. But just a couple of weeks ago, I got my QSL card for the Maldives up in the northern Indian Ocean. I used to work the guy on 30 meters, so that was my number 298. So I was pretty happy
great.
with that one.
Wow.
First held up that card, I thought it was two reindeer standing there. Then as it got a little bit closer, I see that a little bit different climate.
Yeah. Very tropical looking.
Very tropical. Okay, I'm going to bring something up here.
Huh.
Okay, so you should be seeing my agenda. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right, very good. So we'll give it another 30 seconds or so and wait for my little computer clock to click over to 7 o'clock. That way Brian can have accurate reporting, and he can't report that we started early And, people then will feel that they're disenfranchised in that first 30 seconds. So,
you need to take down the agenda so I can get the attendance at the time you start the meeting.
okay, you ready to do the, okay, I'm ready to start the meeting. The meeting for March for the Mount Dale Amateur Radio Club is now commencing at 7 o'clock. What you're seeing on the screen is the agenda. As I see it, this was sent to all the board members and asked them, and staff, to ask them if they had any thing to add, and I did not hear back that there were any changes. So I want to welcome everybody who showed up. I want to thank everybody who came at roughly at 6 o'clock just to kind of say hi to one another and share some, some news, whether it was, radio type news or otherwise. It's always good to see those, faces. And so I know we've had some new members. Do I have any new members who have recently joined the club? I'd like to kind of acknowledge you now if you have joined.
This is Randy, KG6OTE, and I joined about 4 months ago.
Well, great. Randy, is this the first meeting you've attended to?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Welcome.
We have a rule that if you're eating cookies, you got to share it.
No, I'm eating a hot dog and chips.
All right.
Cheese.
All right, very good. You don't have to do like Jeff would do and smash it into the camera. That's okay. We won't require that. Jeff's into smashing things, I guess, huh, Jeff?
I'll have to ask my wife. I wasn't even eating cookies, but you made me show mine anyway.
That's true enough. You had that nice looking enchilada. So do we have any visitors? Pete, you're going to have a relative show attend?
Yeah, my daughter's father-in-law from Early, Texas, he was invited and he said he'd come, but I don't see him yet, so he may check in a little while. His name is Ken. He's K-I-E-N-R. Just became a ham about 2 years ago.
It'd be interesting to get what the historical narrative is for a name like Early, Texas for a town, right?
Yeah.
Kind of wonder if it was one of the original towns in the territory or whatever.
You might want to give him a quick call to see if he's having trouble getting in.
Well, I don't want to bug him about it.
Did you send him the link?
I sent him the link. Is that all he needs?
That's all he needs.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the time difference is. We just had a time change here.
Oh, it's 2 hours.
2? Okay, so they do a change as well?
Yes.
All right. So,
so I told him 9 o'clock his time.
So another state that can't get it right. And not have any changes at all.
That's Hawaii and Arizona that with their own way.
And I think Oregon has something they passed in their legislature to allow it as well, as long as California and Washington agree and do likewise.
To eliminate life savings?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I like it. I grew up with it. I want it to stay.
Okay.
I like the nice long evenings in the summertime.
Exactly, yeah. That's true. But maybe that's the one we want to stay. I don't know. Anyway, that's a discussion for another time. But do we have any visitors? We were going to recognize one that Pete thought might be here. Do you have any visitors? If just wave your hand or use the hand up icon. All right. I don't see any visitors. Did I miss any more new members? Okay. I would have thought that this would have been a very popular meeting. Okay, well, I do want to just let everybody know who doesn't normally do so that you're certainly invited to attend the MDARC board meetings, and the next meeting will be on April the 5th. We usually start about 6:30, have a general just how you doing discussion, chit chat as I call it, and then start our the business portion of that meeting at 7 o'clock. And you are definitely welcome to attend that if you would like to. So I want to extend that to you. Since I have not heard anybody to ask for an edit of the agenda that I sent out earlier, we will consider the agenda as being approved and accepted. So officers report. I don't really have an officer's report other than I mentioned earlier that I'll be coming back to Concord. I'm in Oregon right now.
How about approval of minutes for the last meeting, please?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I guess I just skipped over that. Well, if I hear no objections to those meeting minutes, we will consider them to be approved. And hearing no objections, it is considered approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So anyway, I don't really have a president's message. I mean, a report at this point in time, other than I'll be coming back to Concord much sooner than I had originally anticipated. Probably in the latter part of next week. So I am going to ask Jan, KM6NFSC, if he will give us a vice president report.
Okay. So as far as vice president, it's about the speakers. So tonight we know who the nice speakers is. I will be introducing him shortly. Next month we have auction, so there's nobody will be speaking, so we have auction. And in May, I have to just check the website, guys. It's going to be, just let me see. Let me see who is next month. I'm not okay. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Speakers. Okay, in May we have Winlink, John Trint, John K9ONR, and so as far as June, I have somebody in mind, but that's unofficial yet, and from June, July, we're working on it. Okay. So that's what we've got.
All right, thank you, Jan. Brian, is there a secretary report?
No, nothing to report.
All right. So, Kathy, the financial report, and I will bring that up here for you.
Okay, thank you. All right, for the month of February, you can see our income was $726.77. Our expenses were $2,139.20. So for the month, more money went out than came in. The savings account is simply earning a little bit of interest. So between the checking and the savings, you can see that we have $68,839.12. Our equipment insurance fund is $58,172.95. And the Pacificon balance is $14,515.59. So at the end of February, the total assets were $141,527.66. Does anybody have any questions?
Kathy, I do have one question. Is the balance for Pacificon, is that pretty much what we would be expecting for this time of year?
That is, yeah, that's been pretty much been very stable because there's been No real activity in Pacificon other than they pay for constant contact. The income and the expense closely match other than that because of the money that's from PayPal, for memberships, class fees, all of that goes through the Pacificon checking account into the MDARC checking account. So all MDARC's income filters through the Pacificon checking account. Well, no, not all of it. I'm sorry. Well, all of the PayPal income for MDARC goes through Pacificon, and that's basically what you've been seeing for the past many months under Pacificon.
All right. Well, thank you, Kathy. Any questions for Kathy? Okay, hearing none, we'll go back to our agenda again. Ron, Emergency Coordinator, any report for us, please?
No, no report. Things were honking along as per usual.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. So going down to, before I move from the officers' reports, is there any questions that anybody has of the officers at this time before I move down to committee reports? All right, hearing none. The only open item that I had on the agenda had to do with the auction. I do not see that Jim is here. Is there anybody else who was working with Jim who can speak to the state of the auction on for April the 16th?
Hello there, Jim is here.
Oh, Jim, I'm sorry, I couldn't see you. You must be hidden from me.
I am hidden, definitely. I'm near Winnemucca.
Wow.
So, there we go.
How did you cross state line? I didn't know they allowed that.
I'm in a Jeep and went over the Rubicon.
I do not see your car. Oh, I got it. I see it now. Very nice. I thought your ankle bracelet would have chirped. But anyway.
I did go by a Lovelock where OJ lived, so that was fun.
So can you help a little bit with the auction? What we got in store here?
Absolutely. Actually, I typed up a little bit of information and forwarded to our good friend Mike MEW, who reviewed it and gave a couple of excellent suggestions, so they'll be updated, and then we'll get that out to the board and Mike Anderson to post up on the website, and we'll post it out for us on the Groups IO Reflector. But anyway, the auction will be coming up by this next month, the next monthly meeting. I believe it's April 16th. It's the date. We're going to start the auction at 7 p.m. We can definitely check in a little bit earlier and look at the auction catalog. The auction catalog will be posted, and as we add new items, it will grow. So every day it should start getting larger and larger, we hope here. If you have items in your own closet that you want to bring to the auction, that's fantastic. Send me, Jim, W6LK, an email with what you got and a single picture of your item and a little description and your contact information, and then we'll get that into the catalog. If you have a donation for MDARC you want to make, that's wonderful too. Let us know. We'll come and get that and put that in the auction. And the club has collected a number of great items that will be in the auction. So we're going to be doing it by Zoom. It's going to be a little bit different, and but I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I think people will enjoy it. So it won't be a live auction, but but it will be a live auction. It will be a live Zoom auction. So I think it'll be a kind of a kick of dance, and we'll see how that goes. What else do we have going on? Mike, do you have any, what else I have forgetting?
Like you've got it covered. I don't have any of the details of how we're going to run it, so I'm waiting on you for that.
Okay, actually I was thinking about KBW, but yes, you're right. Oh. Mike Patterson is critical, and Kathy are critical in operation of the auction. And I did want to mention this. that all payments items purchased will be done via PayPal. And PayPal will allow you to pay with a credit card. It'll allow you to pay from your bank account if you wish, or a debit card, or your other, when you have a PayPal account itself, you can use that. So, but it's a convenient and safe way for our folks to collect payment and for us to make this happen. Also, any items that the club owns that we're auctioning, we will deliver to you as long as within the Bay Area. If you're outside the Bay Area, we'll have to arrange something else. But if you're within the Bay Area, we will get it to you. Items that are done from folks that are not part of MDARC, or it's not an MDARC item, individuals that want to auction items, you'll make an arrangement with them directly for how you want to pick up that item. So that's how that's going to go. Anyway, it's going to be great. So please keep paying attention to all regular sources, and something will be going out here in the next few days. I'll be traveling. I'll be going to Laramie, Wyoming tomorrow, and points beyond. So, but I'll be working along the way. So have no fears. W6 okay.
So it sounds like we're going to have a live and lively Zoom meeting.
Jim, this is Pete.
Hi, Pete.
Hi. Is that live video of you driving?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. You like that?
Yeah. It's possible to do live video. You don't have to explain it to me now, but you can do in Zoom, just like showing a picture, you can just do live video?
Yeah, I'm using my iPhone, yeah.
Hey, just point to the windshield. Instead of that himself.
Cool. And your bandwidth seems to be adequate for video and audio, and you're doing well. Looks like a cool trip. Pay attention to the road.
Okay, thank you, Pete.
Hey, it sounds like Larry is trying to say something, but his volume is way down, and I can barely hear him underneath.
Yeah, I got it, Cal. Thank you. Yeah, Larry, why don't you go? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Can you hear me?
No.
No.
Your audio is almost gone. Now
I'm going to plug in everything.
It's gone.
Yeah, gone completely.
Hey, Larry, they can't hear you. I cannot hear Larry.
I can read lips. I think he's swearing.
Yeah, they all are reading.
Yeah, he's swearing at his computer now.
Yeah.
Maybe he's gonna read the message.
Well, can you hear me now?
Yep,
yes.
Perfect.
So I just changed microphone. So, yeah, I went from the high dollar microphone to the low grade microphone, and the one that seems to be working. So, yeah, that's great, Jim. I'm really looking forward to having a live and lively auction. That was
excellent. It's going to be. It will be awesome.
All right. So thank you, Jim, and we'll discuss it more on the board meeting on the 5th of April, right? Get the details worked out, or will it be worked out?
I say that again. I didn't quite copy.
Yeah, the details will be worked out by the board.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they'll be worked out hopefully in the next couple of days, and we'll get that pushed out.
All right, very good. Okay, any questions for Jim so we can, hey, Jim, you can have snow in Wyoming?
We potentially could. We got a little bit of snow coming up near and yeah, it's likely we might get some snow in Nevada and Utah and Wyoming.
Yeah, because I thought they had a big snowstorm in Wyoming, a major blizzard in there. But okay, thank you very much. Any questions, Jim, before we move on?
Larry, can you point your microphone closer to your mouth? You sound, I can hear you, but you're muffled.
Well, let me do this. I'm using the computer microphone now. I will go to my Zoom settings. I will pick the.
Now, can you hear me
Now we can't hear you at all.
Yeah, you went way down.
We can hear you. Just turn up the gain on your microphone. Your microphone volume is very low. Turn the gain up.
Right.
You might have a loose wire, loose connection someplace.
Or you can have a screw loose.
I don't know, but I will actually change to a different
There it is.
microphone.
There it is. We hear you now.
You do?
Yeah, you're great.
Just down low, but a lot clearer than before.
Okay, just don't move your head or anything from now on.
Don't blink.
All right. And of course, then I lost all the Zoom stuff, so that's wonderful. Now I lost all the imagery. So let's see what I got going on here. Here we go.
See something. Now it's back.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Good.
Great.
I'll talk real fast so I can move on before it goes out again. So I think that covers what I had on the agenda before we to cover through our business portion of our general membership meeting. So unless somebody else has something they want to bring up under new business, I would like to call on Jan, our Vice President, to introduce our speaker. So not hearing anybody, Jan, I'm going to call on you.
Yes, so tonight's...
oh, you are so loud. Let me,
am I so loud?
All right, I got to turn that down. Okay, go on, John. Hit it.
Nobody else is complaining so far. All right, so tonight's presentation is on the expedition to Nabassa. It's the Caribbean secret island. It's been discovered in 1504 by Christopher Columbus. There's a lighthouse. It's 80 years old. It's overseeing, I understand, windward passage from Panama Canal, and is only accessible by helicopter. And the reservation is, let me introduce you to the speaker. It's John Miller, K6MM. John was first licensed as WV2BQJ in 1958 while living in Syracuse, New York. In 1976, John's career took him to Silicon Valley, where he reconnected with amateur radio in late 1990s. Since then, John has focused heavily on DX and contesting, recruiting new operators into the hobby. As DXCC honor roll member, John holds 8-band DXCC and is working on completing 160 meter for the 9th band. His article entitled "The No Excuses 160 meter vertical" won the cover play award for the June 2009 issue of QST. John was the expedition operator at PJ7E, St. Martin, K9W Waikato, K1N Nabassa Island, K5P Palmyra Atoll, and KH1/KH7Z KH1 Baker Island. He was also a pilot and or webmaster for NH8S, Swains Island, C82DX, Mozambique, FT4TA, Tromelin, 3G0C1 Fernandez, and VK0K Hart Island. So John is current president of the Northern California DX Foundation, and past president of Northern California Contest Club, former director of Northern California DX Club, and founding member of the CW Operators Club. He is also a member of editorial staff for National Contest Journal and co-chairman of the International DX Convention for 2011, 13, 15, 2017, 2019, and 2021. In addition, he has 4 grandchildren. John's interests include website design, piano composition, exploring the back roads of Bay Area on his Harley Davidson motorcycle. So, John Miller, K6MM, it's all yours.
Wow. Jeez. I think I should just Quit while I'm ahead. Thank you for that wow introduction. My gosh. Let's see. I'll try to share this screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can see the test pattern.
Got
okay.
It.
Okay, great. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you guys. My history with Mount Diablo goes way back, probably 10 to 12 years. One of my neighbors, about 3 doors away, was a fellow named Jim Ronan, and his brother is named John Ronan. And John, through Jim, contacted me years ago to get our club, at the time it was the Northern California Contest Club, to exhibit at Pacificon. And we did that, and we did that for several years. My exposure to Mount Diablo through Pacificon goes way back, and really have a lot of respect for you guys. You do some fantastic work in the hobby. So it's an honor to be with you tonight. Thanks for coming. As mentioned, I'm from upstate New York originally. I was born in Buffalo, raised in Syracuse. We moved out here in '74, and took a hiatus for about 20 years, like most of us, while we're working, and then got back in after I retired in 2005. My favorite mode is Morse code, CW, but I also enjoy operating the other modes, and especially enjoy chasing that rare DX. Really enjoy contesting on some weekends, and certainly have fun participating in the expeditions. You can see my station in Syracuse with the venerable Hallicrafters S699 and Skit DX40. Those are the good old days. Put an end-fed wire out the window, and you could work the world 10 meters at that during those times. Now, take a look at this word, DXpeditions. For those who may not know much about DX or DXing, we have some visitors here. Just a couple definitions. What's a DXpedition anyway? Well, it's simply a long-distance trip organized by ham radio operators to an exotic location. And that location could be an island, or it could be a country, or it could be a specific geographical grid. And it's exotic simply because it's remote, or because there are very few ham radio operators that are active there. And why do we bother? Well, first there's the challenge of operating in a remote location. Sometimes it's an inhospitable location. There's also the joy of helping others get a confirmation for the contact, especially if they're working toward an award. And yes, it's a lot of fun. I believe the first organized the expedition was in 1947. That was Thor Heyerdahl on his 101-day trip from Polynesia to Peru. He tried to prove that it was possible for South Americans to cross the Pacific to help colonize the Polynesian islands. He made that trip, and his sign used during the trip was LI2B. That's the QSL card, and there's a lot more that you can read if you Google Thor Heyerdahl. It's a lot very interesting, the expedition. Now, this word location, when it comes to DXing, is often synonymous with the word entity, because in our world, the locations are kind of funny. What is a DX entity? Well, it could be a discrete geographical or political area. It could be a country. It could be an island. It could be an atoll. It could be a territory. And currently, there are 340 separate entities as defined by the ARRL. Now, here's the full list. And, of course, you'll recognize at least 100 countries will jump off the page for you. If you work 100 countries and get them confirmed, you can qualify for the coveted DXCC award, which is requires 100 confirmations from around the world. Those first 100 are pretty easy. It's the next 200 that are not as easy, but it's one of the challenges in ham radio, and it's one of the things that people really love to work toward. You'll notice that there are a large number of islands on this list. They're abbreviated I or IS, and the reason for that is these are declared entities, and they're all workable for credit, but some of them are rare. And if they're rare, they're hard to get to, and so that's where the expeditions come in. Because this is a group, groups that target these places to put them on the air for a period of time so we can all get credit for them. we're going to take a trip to one of these. It's called Navassa Island. Now, just to refresh your geographical memory, here's a map of part of the Caribbean. Upper left corner is Florida. And Navassa Island, those of you that can quickly found it right there. It happens to be midway between Jamaica and Haiti. It's 100 miles south of Guantanamo Bay. It's 90 miles east of Jamaica, and it's 35 miles west of Haiti. Just take a look at the topology of the territory a little bit. It's this pear-shaped island. It was named by Christopher Columbus because the terrain is pretty much a treeless plateau. I think that's what the word Nava means. So it's about 2 square miles, which makes it the size of Central Park. Nobody lives there, but it's an unincorporated U.S. territory. There are 2 key parts of the island that are really important. One is Lulu Bay, which is the only practical accessible point of entry to the island by boat. And that means, and you'll see what the challenges are there. And then there's a standing lighthouse, as John already mentioned. Here's a little bit about the history. This is the straight poop, so to speak. This 2 square miles of island is nothing more than 2 square miles of petrified bird excrement, which is also known as guano. And guano phosphate, as it turns out, is a superior organic fertilizer. It's also a source of saltpeter for gunpowder. So the U.S. passed this Guano Act back in 1856, which allowed any U.S. citizen to take possession of an island that had guano deposits as long as it was unoccupied and that it wasn't within the jurisdiction of any other government, which is exactly what Peter Duncan did in 1857, claimed Navassa for the United States. And then over the next 40 years, Navassa Phosphate Company of Baltimore mined and exported over 1 million tons of phosphate from Navassa. Now, this mining was done by Maryland prisoners and freed black slaves after the Civil War. They used mining picks, dynamite, and human-powered rail cars, but it was not a very pleasant environment, as you'll see. Very difficult work. It's a pretty sweltering climate. They weren't making much money, and there's a lot of abuse. So all of that led to a revolt. September 14th, 1889, 3 of the supervisors were killed, and then 14 miners are actually put on trial and convicted in Boston. But President Harrison said, "Well, I need to know more." He sent a team down to investigate, found out what a horrible environment it was, and eventually commuted the sentences. And then a few years later, guano mining just stopped on Navassa. The interesting thing about this country, or this territory, is that it's claimed by 7 other countries. You can see them listed there. Haiti thinks it belongs to them. Cuba and Mexico think it belongs to them, etc. But the reality is the U.S. has full legal control, which means it has economic, navigational, refuge management. It's overseen by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which is part of the Department of the Interior. In 1914, the Panama Canal opened up, and that led to a lot of traffic, a lot of shipping through the Panama Canal up through through the Windward Passage, which sits right between Cuba and Haiti. In order to help these ships avoid capsizing or crashing on the reefs around there, the U.S. Coast Guard erected a lighthouse in 1917 rather. It's 162 feet tall, and they ran that for almost 80 years. During the war, it became an observation post. But in 1996, the lighthouse was shut down because by that time ships were navigating by a satellite computer, and since then it's come under the jurisdiction of the Department of Interior, and specifically the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It's a national wildlife refuge, but it's certainly not open to the public. It's a closed refuge. Now, the ecosystem has survived virtually untouched over the years because it's unpopulated. There's a couple views of Navassa Island and the lighthouse. You can see it's sitting there on the island, and the peak it's 300 feet above sea level. And there are only 3 structures left on the island. You'll see them in more detail in a minute. Now, if you look back in 2015, question came up, gee, why is Navassa Island ranked 2 out of the 340? Of all 340 DXCC entities, it was ranked 2, right behind North Korea. And the simple reason was that it had been 22 years since anybody had organized any kind of a trip in Navassa to operate. So we knew there would be a big demand to try to contact a de-expedition there. Now the problem is getting past no. This is true for any de-expedition to one of these rare places because no comes flying at you in several forms. One that you always hear, well, it's too hard to get there. Or it's politically remote. North Korea is a great example. We'll probably never get, don't say never, but it's going to be unlikely in the near future that we'll get that permission to go there. You can't go there because it's a wildlife refuge, or it's going to cost a fortune, or once you get there, it may be too dangerous, or the timing may not be good because often you need to take somebody with you from one of these sponsoring agencies. So that's the trick is how do you get past no? And in the case specifically of Navassa, we have to thank Bob, Glenn, and Mike here. In 2002, they organized what was called the KP 1 to 5 project. That was they were trying to get permission from Fish and Wildlife to visit 2 different islands in the Caribbean. The first being Desecheo, which sits between the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. They got permission to go, but it took them 7 years. They started in 2002, got permission in 2009, and they had a successful trip. Because of that, they thought it would be a piece of cake to get permission to go to Navassa, but it actually took them another 5 years. So they started in 2002. They finally got permission to go to Desecheo in 2009 and to Navassa in 2014. And it required just an awful lot of interaction and a lot of people who became ambassadors politically to get us permission to go there. Just as a reference point, it only took us 8 years to go to the moon. So just keep that one in mind. Okay, well, permission was received in 2014. They issued a valid permit for 2 months, January through February 2015. They said you can stay for 14 days, don't interfere with the bird, make no other environmental impact, leave the island alone, don't take any souvenirs, and embarrass yourself by taking any weapons or drugs or alcohol or any firearms. You can take up to 15 people, but you got to bring all the stuff you need because there's absolutely nothing there. So you provide all the camp infrastructure, and we want you to have both a helicopter and a ship. We need you to have a helicopter to access the island, and we need you need to have an offshore ship standing by in case there's an emergency. And you must take 4 Fish and Wildlife personnel along. They'll provide some leadership, protection, and compliance, and we would like that to be at no cost to the U.S. taxpayer. And please send us a deposit for $4,000 to hold your place, and so we did. Well, at this point, it was time to put the team together. These are the 15 operators that went. I was honored to join them. Several of us in different combinations and on other trips together. So the trust level is pretty high. I think one thing we all share is a kind of get her done work ethic. We're comfortable operating in pileups because there are a lot of people on the air at the same time. We all speak the 3 languages of Morse code, sideband, and digital. And then everybody on the team has a special skill. There's some folks who love to take care of the antennas, others who love to do fundraising, others still who like to plan for all of the logistics. And so we're blessed with that extra sort of second skill among this group of guys. There are 2 requirements that I always talk about. One is you have to leave your ego in the parking lot on a trip like this, and you definitely want to bring a sense of humor. So we were pretty happy to get this group together, but step 3, which is the most important step next, was how do we get there safely? Because this place is not friendly. There are no beaches. They're on these sheer, unfriendly cliffs. You can see from the photos. Navassa screams at you, stay away, no matter how you look at it. And so, yes, there's no beaches. There's this hazardous access. There's a grassland kind of cover there, but it's full of sharp coral rocks and limestone and a lot of potholes. Surprisingly, it has a very high temperature. There's no water there. There's a lot of strange plants and trees and some things that crawl around. Nobody lives there, and it's a national wildlife refuge. So, you know, there are a lot of birds that nest there. Well, you might ask the question, how did the expeditions get there in the past? The only accessible point, practical place, is Lulu Bay, and you can see a photo of that on the left. And on the right was a D expedition from many years ago, and they basically had a boat that came in. They took a smaller boat in. They climbed up on the rocks and dropped a rope ladder down, and people would take, a heavy radio over their shoulder, climb up there, and they would just sit there at the base of the rocks near those stairs and operate for, a week or however long they could. Well, our group was, of course, not going to be allowed to do that, and it's not safe anymore. And besides, Fish and Wildlife said the only way you're going to access this is by a helicopter to start with. So we thought, well, no problem. We've got to find something that has both a helicopter and a ship anyway. Oh, well, let's go look at the Shadow. This is our perfect solution. That'll be the boat, and we'll get that. We'll just reserve it. And then we found out it was going to cost $650,000. So we said, that's not going to work. We have to go to Plan B. And Plan B was to figure out how to get there and if we could get there safely. Well, in collaboration with the Coast Guard and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, we found a lot of aerial photographs, and they said there's a small flat area right next to the lighthouse that probably is going to be good for a helicopter landing. Probably do that. And this is, by the way, the lighthouse. That lightkeeper's house next to it that has no roof was long gone because of all the hurricanes and over the years. And then you can also see a little structure right next to the White House. And then there's the trench. That's the phosphate mining trench. It's still quite visible today. So we thought, all right, helicopter is the answer. And now the question is, how do we get there? From where? Well, there's Navassa, and we consider the Dominican Republic. It's too far away. It's 350 miles one way. Haiti doesn't like the United States because they think they own Navassa, and besides they have no helicopter service. Guantanamo Bay is a restricted base, so the most logical place for us to depart from was Jamaica. It's 100 miles to Navassa. So the first step was to see if we could find a helicopter service that would even want to partner with us. There was a lot of work that went into that, and out of the Dominican Republic, there is a helicopter service. It's the Helidosa, and they were willing to work with us by setting up a base in Ocho Rios, Jamaica. They provide air ambulance and cargo service all over the Caribbean, had an impeccable safety record, but their top speed's 100 miles an hour. So you can do the math. It's 100 miles one way to Navassa. So a round trip is 2 hours, but then you need another half hour to refuel. So practically speaking, each round trip took 2.5 hours. They required an extra fuel tank to do this, which added weight to the system, which reduced the amount of stuff we could take on any one trip. Therefore, multiple trips were needed. But they said, if you want to do this, we'll be happy to partner with you. We'll headquarter at Ocho Rios, Jamaica, and we'll bring you guys and your supplies over there. It'll take a few trips, but we'll be happy to do it. Please send us a check for $200,000, which, of course, we did. So we reserved them, and, of course, once we got that settled, the next step was this is not a trivial step. It's to get all the equipment together and pre-test it. On a trip like this, you want to make sure you don't forget anything. More importantly, you want to make sure everything works and you know how to put stuff together immediately when you land, because you don't want to waste any time figuring out which end of an antenna goes into the other end. So everything is pre-tested. All the radios are plugged in, tested, the laptops as well. So everything is pre-packed and carefully packed together. And, of course, we had to bring everything else. Not just the radios and not just the antennas. We needed food, water. We need tables, chairs. We needed toilet paper. There was nothing there. So it's just, you could see what was involved. We had all of these supplies we had to collect, check off. Everything then eventually went into a 20-foot container, and it was shipped overseas to Ocho Rios, Jamaica, to hold the customs for our arrival. Well, they said you not only need, and we got so lucky on this trip because a famous really well-known de-expeditioner is a fellow named George Wallner. Alpha Alpha 7 Japan Victor lives in Miami Beach. He happens to own this beautiful boat. It's a yacht. It's he's been a veteran of several de-expeditions, and he said, "I'll be happy to join you. I'll be happy to join you, and I will take 2 operators. 2 guys can show up in Miami. They can hop in the boat with me. I'll take them down. We'll bring supplies. We'll drop anchor in Lulu Bay, and we'll stay there for 2 weeks, and we'll help you supply water and fuel and extra gear as you need it." And we said, "Well, how are you going to do that?" And he said, "That's easy. I'm going to construct a catenary line in davit." And we said, "Wow, that's great. What in the hell is a catenary line in a davit?" And he said, "Well, it's very common in construction and in the military." He said, I'm going to affix 2 large aluminum arms. In concrete, I'm going to drop a catenary line down to a mooring ball, which will be anchored to the bottom of the ocean. And we're going to put a load line along that with a pulley on it. We'll come up to the pulley, put some water on there, generator, whatever you need, and you guys up on top, you can just pull it up. You should be able to pull up 10 pounds at a time. And he said, "I'll even put up a rope ladder over there, which we will need just in case there's an emergency." We thought, "Oh my God, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, George. This sounds really wonderful. With a hair, on a wing and a prayer, we can make this work." And so here's how things were shaping up. Dollar-wise, we had to pay for the helicopter. We had to pay U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We had a lot of ongoing expenses. And the money comes in from a variety of sources, clubs and foundations, from corporate sponsors like DX Engineering and Ella Craft. Individuals contribute, and so, of course, so do the operators. All right, we planned, and now it's time to start. But first, we had to get our immunization shots. We needed hepatitis, malaria, tetanus, and typhoid. And everybody who goes on a de-expedition needs to have evacuation insurance, because something happens, somebody needs to come and get you. So, we have that. And our personal belongings were limited to 40 pounds because of the weight limits on the helicopter. So the team departed for Montego, Jamaica, January 27th. And after we cleared customs, Jamaica's a fun place. We didn't have time to enjoy much of it from a tourist side of it, because as soon as we got through customs, we had a 2-hour bus ride along the North Shore to a place called Ocho Rios. And we checked into a Moxon Beach Club, which I would say is a kind of a 1-star hotel. We wanted to find a place that was, cheap and convenient, because we weren't going to stay there very long. But it was adequate for what we wanted. We were happy. And that night we met with the Jamaican Amateur Radio Association. These guys have been to Navassa several times. They kind of knew the in and outs, and they gave us some useful tips and guidance about what to do, what to watch out for. And they said, "We'll be happy to serve as backup emergency communication. Anything goes wrong for you there." And that same night we met the pilots from Helidosa, the Danilo and Nelson, pilot and co-pilot, and Juan Carlos, the mechanic. All these guys are graduates, the equivalent of the Air Force Academy in the Dominican Republic. They became good friends of ours. They joined us. The safety first, of course. They understood what we were doing. They got to know the hobby a little bit, and I can't praise them enough for the tremendous work they did. The next morning, we had our first planning session, and typically what you do in that meeting is review the do's and don'ts. And the number 1 on the list, don't screw up. We've been given a rare opportunity to visit a national wildlife refuge that's guest the Fish and Wildlife, and they had 27 pages of rules, which we went through, all 27 pages. So we made sure everybody understood those, what we were doing. We always try to predict and put a stretch target for the number of contacts that we're going to make. And we thought with this group, with a little bit of good luck, if Murphy doesn't visit us, and we should be able to make 100,000 contacts with a couple weeks we were there. And we want to make sure to maximize the number of unique call signs, which means get as many new people in the log that people have never worked in Navassa before. Definitely follow the propagation advice. Try to focus especially on Asia. Especially Asia. It's hard to work the Caribbean from the Asia sometimes. We worked all modes, all bands, and of course we wanted to have a safe and fun trip. So the next morning, we went out to the airport, this little airport called Ian Fleming International Airport, to meet the customs folks. And they were going to help us check in our goods from the container ship. Now, just to let you know, the name Ian Fleming is not a coincidence. It was actually named after Ian Fleming. Ian Fleming actually was in naval intelligence. And he took a lot of vacations to Jamaica, and he fell in love with the place. And he bought property there, and when he retired, he started writing his novels. And all the James Bond novels are written by this guy right there. And he, unfortunately, he was a heavy smoker. He died at a fairly young age. You know, that's where it was all born. So that's the airport named after him. And here's our container ship. Went out there with the customs folks. They helped us unpack everything. They went through it all. Wanted to make sure they understood what we were doing. It was a very strange situation because we took all this stuff out, but we were going to take it by helicopter out of the country. We're going over to Navassa with it. So it was just a very unusual operation, but they were very cooperative, didn't find anything strange, and so we passed, basically. No problems at all. One of the most important things we brought with us was a digital scale. And we used a digital scale because to weigh everything. We weighed everything, every piece of equipment, because there was no room for error. We were limited to 1,200 pounds for each trip because of the extra fuel tanks that it needed. So one of the first things we did before the helicopter even got there was set up our first 5 loads. So each of these groupings that you see is 1,200 pounds. We also had to get fuel. We went out to the local, one of the local hardware stores and bought almost every one of their 5-gallon cans because we didn't ship that over there. So you can imagine what an interesting day we had when we put 30 new 5-gallon cans in the shuttle bus and went out to a local gas station. The expression on his face was pretty interesting. So we had, by this time, we were ready to go. The helicopter had come in, got to know the pilots, talked to the pilots a little bit more about what we were doing. So we were ready. Now, here was the game plan. It's a three-phase plan game. Part of it, the first part, since the Fish and Wildlife had to get there first. They live in Puerto Rico, but they departed from Guantanamo Bay. So you can see the little red line, that's them. They were supposed to fly to Navassa from Guantanamo Bay on January 31st. And then when they gave us the sign that everything was okay, we would start our multiple trips, round trips from Jamaica over there. And at the same time, leaving up there from Miami was the Electra. That's the name of the boat that came down from Miami to sit in Little Bay with us. And that was the plan. So on the morning of January 31st, we're anxiously awaiting for them to give us the green light. And unfortunately, it was delayed because of some congressional group that went to Guantanamo Bay, and they had restricted airspace. So we lost the morning. But at about 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, we got the word. It's time to see your first 3 guys over. And let's see if you guys can hear this. Hear the sound okay? Thank you. So this is the group going over to Navassa. Their call signs there, Glenn, Jerry, and George. Up and away. Up and away is right. We were really happy. That was a happy moment, of course. And we've got this photo later. Glenn, W0GJ, was one of the original guys to apply for a license back in 2002. Was one of the first guys to step off the helicopter. And there's a recording of him saying, "One small step for man, one giant step for DXing." It was really funny, actually. And he planted the American flag right there on the Navassa. I went out the next day. This is a shot I took behind the pilot, so you start to see Navassa come into view fairly quickly here. Imagine after about a year, a little over a year of hard planning, exciting when all of this stuff starts to come together. I can see the lighthouse straight ahead. that's just the lighthouse there to the right. As we swung over, got a little closer, I looked out the window, and there was the Electra anchored in the little bay. So we all breathed a sigh of relief that they came down from Miami. We knew we had them to depend on if we needed them. You can also tell from the photo on the left, there's a pretty steep rise. As you can see the Electra on the left in the water, and then you can see the rise up to the lighthouse. It's pretty steep. Now we're flying right over where we're going to, just before we landed, and these are the three structures. There's the lighthouse, there's the lightkeeper's house with no roof, and there's a little concrete hut that was used to store acetylene torches and dynamite from the folks who were doing guano mining there. To the right, you can see the trench, which is where how they transported the guano down to Lulu Bay. This is the spot that was designated for the helicopter landing. All right, so we're now at the lighthouse, and this is typical. We landed, and you can, this is a side view. We would open up the doors. A group would come out and start taking all the supplies down, and very quickly put them where they're supposed to go, and then the pilots would refuel, and they would fly back to Jamaica for the next trip. Now, the first thing we did when we got there was meet the 4 Fish and Wildlife folks who were with us that came, and their names are Raoul, Billy, Mike, and Brian. We gave them nicknames, Shock, Awe, and Hell No. These guys are pretty funny. They were very well armed. They came because, unfortunately, Navassa is a target for drug dealers and drug smugglers, and other unwanted personnel, and these guys came to guard, make sure we weren't going to be bothered. And also they have duties on the island, different things that they have to do. They were highly supportive, and they partnered with us in many ways, helped us even put up some of the equipment, and a great sense of humor. So because we got to know them right away, within the first hour or so, we said, look, this might be a long shot, but we would love to use the lighthouse if we could, if it was going to be off limits. And they said, oh, no problem. You can use the lighthouse if you want. You're going to have to be really careful. And before you can use it, you're going to have to clean it out. So we said, okay, it's worth it to do this. And obviously, it's pretty rusted there, being by the ocean, by the Caribbean Sea. So it was hot, dirty work. We were very happy to be able to use the lighthouse, though. And the reason is because our original antenna plan required putting up 4 verticals. Well, with the use of the lighthouse, we didn't need those verticals at all. In fact, what we did was we strung 8 wires from the top to the bottom from the top to the bottom of the lighthouse. We started all the way up. We had a 160-meter sloper up there, and then we had antennas for the other bands that you see, and we actually didn't even need the stepper antennas. We could have worked the expedition with these wire antennas. They work so well. But we did bring 4 stepper antennas. These are the two elements, and we had 2 facing west, and we had 2 facing east. And we did bring 1 Yagi for 6 meters, a 6-meter one that you see sitting there. So on the left, facing west, we had 2 of these 2-step element steppers, and then facing east. And we would just turn them by hand. If we didn't have them on a rotor, we just get out there and just swing them around. In fact, that was our pointer flag for the rotors, but you'll also notice pink flags on all of these, and that's a requirement because we want to make sure that we keep the birds away, and that's the purpose of of those flags. It's a requirement if you're going to use antennas like this by Fish and Wildlife that you have to put these flags on. It's the wind will blow the flags, and it tends to scare the birds and keep them away so they don't get hurt. All right, if you take a look at the structures, we had full use of the lighthouse. We had use of the concrete hut to the right. And then we set up a shelter on the left. That's the white structure. We call it the MEG shelter, and that stands for Meet, Eat, and Greet. It's basically where we met. where we had our meals and we would just meet to strategize. With the lighthouse and the concrete hut is where we set up our stations. So basically, on the lower left, you can see we set up 3 CW stations in the lighthouse lobby. And on the right, in the little concrete hut, we set 4 stations for both phone and RIDI. These are not the most pleasant environments, but fortunately we had electric fans. We had some fans that helped cool us off. This was the setup, for example, for the 160-meter station in the lighthouse. Now, as you crawl up, of course, there's tremendous view. We wanted to make sure we put a flag up there, and we took a look down below because the last thing we needed to do was figure out where we were going to sleep. We originally were going to erect 4 shelters, figuring that we couldn't use anything else. And when we took a look from the top of the lighthouse down into the lightkeeper's house, we thought this would be great if we could get permission to sleep there. And so U.S. Fish and Wildlife said, sure, it's no problem, you can use it. But first, you got to clean it out. So we cleaned it out, happily cleaned it out. It took us no time at all to sweep all that stuff and clear the corridors out. And so in so doing, we were able to create the Navassa Hilton. And so this is what it looked like. This is actually the way we set things up. Now, where it says F and W, those are fish and wildlife people. If you look carefully, right in the center of the screen, there's one of the fish and wildlife folks is sleeping in a hammock. You can barely see that maybe, but where our shelters were, I'll call them Suite 1 and Suite 2, and this is what they look like. Suite 1 looked like this. We had 7 cots there, and in Suite 2 we had 7 cots. One interesting thing about the expedition, once it starts, as soon as it starts, you're going to have people on the air, you're going to have people eating, you're going to have people repairing stuff, and you're going to have people sleeping. So 24 hours a day throughout the whole expedition for 2 weeks, if you walk into one of these suites, you're going to find people sleeping because they just came off a shift and they need their rest and relaxation. This is true of everyday expedition. So basically, this is K1 and the expedition headquarters. The call sign was Kilo 1 Norway, and you could see all the antennas. We slept in the lightkeeper's house. We operated using those 2 structures, the lighthouse and the concrete house, and we had our meet, eat, and greet tent. Now, if you walk behind the lighthouse, underneath the blue tarp is Navassa Power and Light, of course. And, this is the type of the expedition is like a field day on steroids, right? The only sound we heard for the whole time we were there, 24 hours a day. Amount of gasoline you need to keep things going. I'm sure you're familiar with a Honda generator. It's one of the most popular generators, and they work flawlessly for us. Want to know what our antenna patch panel looked like? It was very sophisticated. Actually, it was 2 pieces of plexiglass, and with these pass-through coaxial connectors on the back side of the plexiglass were all the coax cables from all the antennas coming in on the back side. On the front of it, all the coax cables that went out to all the different stations were set up. Right there in the lobby of the lighthouse, all the stepper controller boxes for the different filters, because when it was your turn to operate, you would simply go there and change the band on the antenna that you were going to operate, switch the coax if you needed to switch around to a dipole and so forth. It wasn't pretty, but it worked very well. We were on 3-hour shifts. We operated 12 out of every 24 hours. We had one guy who was actually printing the operator schedules for us with a color printer. And the reason for that is because everyone wanted to know exactly which time they were going to operate, which station they were going to operate, what band they were going to operate, what mode they were going to operate, how much power they're going to run, and then where their geographical focus was going to be. So these charts, which look very complicated, they're not really, made it very easy for people to know exactly when they were going to operate and what they were to accomplish on their shift. And here's a typical, here are two guys operating. This is Craig and Lou sitting at the stations. We used Elecraft K3 transceivers and KPA 500 amplifiers. Those a marriage made in heaven. Those two work really well. Probably one of the most popular combinations for the expeditions. And we use, of course, laptops and wireless mice and keyboard. We use software we use was N1MM Plus. That was our logging software. On any of the expedition, one of the most important things to do when you're working a pop and you have hundreds of call signs coming in, make sure that you get the call sign correct in the log. It doesn't do anybody any good if you bust a call. So one of the most important skills is being able to pick out the call sign. Make sure that you understand what the full call sign before you log it. And it's interesting when you go on the expedition, all the call signs in the United States start with Alpha Kilo November Whiskey. But as soon as you put your headphones on, you enter what I call the prefix twilight zone. You never know what's going to come through. Morse code's a little easier to operate because it's Morse code. It's very standard language, so to speak, and you can pick signals out a lot easier. When you get on phone, it's a little more difficult because you're dealing with signals with folks that have dialects or accents, and sometimes you need to have them repeat their call sign. So it's very interesting. It's not a place to learn how to do this. If you operate contests, people who operate in a lot of contests that know how to handle pileups make very good expedition operators. So here's our whole team, various times, putting QSOs in the log and hopefully making a lot of the extras happy. It was very hot there. It was unexpectedly hot. We had no idea it was going to be over 100 degrees almost every day. So we started using a little more water than we thought we were going to. Remember, we brought a lot of water via helicopter, and we were a little worried about that. It was very hot. So you can take a walk with me now down to Lulu Bay where we'll get some water. This is what, that's me, and this is what it was like to walk from the lighthouse, which you can see behind me, down a very steep embankment, kind of a 45-degree drop all the way down to Lulu Bay. And as you walk through here, you will see the original tracks for the Guano Mining Company that was there. It's still there. This is the way they took these hand trucks down through this foliage down all over Lulu Bay. Kind of hack your way through there as best you can. And yes, all the way. And then eventually you get through this clearing, and it drops down a little bit, and before you know it, you're looking out at Lulu Bay. This is what it looks like. Now, the day I happened to go there, we could not only see the Electra sitting out there, but there's some Haitian fishermen, and you can see the fishermen there. They actually come over from Haiti, and they fish to feed their families. They fish for a living, or probably just to survive. And the main thing they fish for is red snapper. And so they were curious about what we were doing. They saw the helicopter, they saw the boat, they didn't quite understand. But one of the guys in the Fish and Wildlife team spoke fluent French, so he was able to communicate with them, explain exactly what we were doing, and they just found it fascinating, and they just stood by and watched with interest. Now, the day that I went there, the owner of the boat, George, happened to be coming over, and he decided he was going to climb up the ladder, and this is kind of fearless George in action. I'll show you it's pretty dangerous to do this stuff, but George is not afraid to do anything.
How to time it just right. There he goes.
The day before he tried this, and the boat went over the rock by mistake, capsized.
He makes it look easy, doesn't he?
This is how you wind up. This is how he wound up climbing the side of a rope better to get on. That's why you need a helicopter. There he is climbing up to the top now. You remember this slide. I mentioned that George promised to put in a catenary line so that we could use it to bring supplies up on the top of the island. And I'll be damned if he didn't pull that off. There are a couple slides of the catenary line installation. You can see it from a distance. Again, you can see that walkway that goes up about a 45-degree angle. That's how you go back up to the lighthouse. Here's another view. Here's another view from the top of the incline as you come down. And you can see what he did. There it is. You know, he bolted this A-frame basically onto the concrete. And you can see the catenary line goes all the way down past that boat, and it's anchored to the bottom of the ocean. By the way, George dove down to the bottom of the ocean himself to set that catenary line anchored up. It's amazing. And you could see the load line, and basically somebody would come over with his generator and hang it on there, and then at the top of the hill we would just pull that up. That's how we pulled up fuel. That's how we pulled up precious water, and that's how we kept ourselves going. The helicopter helped too, but they had a lot of stuff on the boat that they brought that we needed, and this is the way that we were able to get it on the island safely. Just to give you an idea of the landscape there, it's pretty harsh. You can see the amount of the coral and these potholes. You have to be careful when you walk. You certainly couldn't run or even trot. You had to be very careful, but you could twist your ankle very easily. And there were several of these poisonwood trees. We were warned about them. If you're too close to them, the bark can rub off and cause some really bad blisters. We had a couple of people did that. There were some varmints there. They didn't bother us too much. Fish and Wildlife was there to do a few things as well, some experiments. More friends. Yes, there were a couple of ouch moments. Nobody got seriously injured, but there were these bites and blisters. Inevitable. It's almost impossible to avoid this. Now, the bird population there is primarily these red-footed boobies, and they stayed away. We didn't bother them. They were very curious about us. We affectionately hung a banner in the event called the Red Booby Inn, which is kind of our social center. This is where we got together to talk, to eat, to send text messages home so we could keep in touch with our loved ones. And we had a sat phone that was used from time to time. So it was fairly comfortable compared to some trips that I've been on. We weren't, in danger at any point. That made everybody's self-confidence pretty high. In the back there, you can see Dr. Glenn Johnson, who's our orthopedic surgeon, reaching in for another MRE. This is what we ate. It was so hot there, all we needed to do is take the meals out of these packages and put them out on a rock for a while, and they would be warmed up and ready to eat. We had some names for these. They're called meals ready to eat, and we came up with other phrases for them, like meals ready to expel was popular, meals resembling edibles, and morale-reducing elements. And I think my favorite was the meals refusing to exit. They really weren't that bad. We've heard about a new taco MRE, and we can't wait to try that sometime. This is our kitchen. We had a propane heater, an ice maker, a microwave, all dedicated on one generator. We were able to make, we use the microwave to fix meals. We can make tea and coffee. But the thing that saved our butt was this ice making machine, which we got at, I think, Home Depot. Took it with us. It was $160. Made 28 pounds of ice a day. And we didn't know we were going to need ice as much as we did, and everyone had their water bottle filled with ice and water because it was so hot there. We also Baofeng 2-meter VHF. You can't go anywhere. It wasn't a lot. We weren't allowed to go anywhere without that. Stay in touch with each other. Several people bought solar chargers with them, USB solar chargers. Somebody bought a solar oven, which really didn't need to use. There were several inflatable solar lanterns that came in handy. Around camp, after about a week, people got relaxed and really comfortable. You can see this is part of the fun of doing something like this. You get to know people in this kind of environment. We were feeling good because things were going well. QSOs were coming in. Conditions were good. We weren't having any technical problems. We actually got a hot dinner delivered from the boat, from the Electra. George had, on a couple staff, a couple people on his crew that made some food for us and came up the hill, and we were really thrilled to get that. This was the meal kit 2.0 that I brought with me, which you probably have seen one version or another. It's very easy. It's compact. It has all that stuff in it. A lot of guys brought that. I brought the kitchen sink, which holds 10 liters of water, so we could wash out our clothes using camp suds. We, of course, put a clothesline up. It was no problem to put wet clothes on there and have them dry in an hour because of the temperature. If you wanted to take a shower, you could. We had a little shower stall. There's no hot water, but nobody ever wanted to take a hot shower. It was mostly cold. And then, of course, all the way out there where it says the throne was the throne room. And that's where we did our thing. And we happened to catch one of our team leaders, Bob, expressing himself one day. You wonder what happens to the waste. Well, that was Mike's job. Mike volunteered to take care of all the waste. And fortunately for us, there was a bottomless pit on Navassa, not far from the lighthouse. And they said, please be careful, but you can throw your stuff down there. And in a way, you don't have to try to. Otherwise, we would have had to pack it up and take it back on the helicopter with us because they didn't want us to leave anything. But in this case, they said for waste, your human waste, you can do that, no problem. That saved a lot of work and made it a lot more pleasant. Navassa is really a beautiful island, especially beautiful at night. Other than the drone of the generators, that's the main sound. And of course, the sky is beautiful there at night because there are no ground lights other than our own lights, our man-made lights that we have. And of course, that was interesting because we had to make sure that we could see what we were doing. Remember, bring it with you because it's not there. So we had a lot of string lights strung all over the place. People wore their headlamps. The Energizer folding lantern was very popular, and USB headlights, lights. The USB LED light on the laptop was good. If you can't see the keyboard, you're in trouble. You got to be able to log call signs. You got to be able to operate the radio. So, things like that. You have to think ahead of time. What's life going to be like at night on Navassa? There's nothing there. We did all right. We did very well. Just before we left, we communicated to the world that we wanted to just reserve some time on 2 bands, especially for some of the smaller stations that had not worked us over the 2 weeks, and we wanted everyone else to hold off. So we set up some phone schedules like you see, and that allowed at least some first-timers with running 100 watts to get through the pilots, get in the log. It might have only worked just once, but that was okay. And after the expedition, we got some great feedback about that. We arrived on the first weekend of February. We're on the air for 2 weeks, and then it was time to pack up. And just before we did that, we of course, every day expedition does this. We say thank you, give thanks to the organizations that sponsor us. We typically have banners. California DX Foundation gave some money to help us with that, all of the radios and the amplifiers. And DEXA gave us DX Engineering, which was wonderful to help us with coax connectors, coax cables, and a variety of other things. Whenever I'm on a DX expedition like this, I always turn the banner around because we always maybe have to give thanks to the groups when we come back home. So that's our thank you banner to you guys. All right, now it was time to leave, and we had to make a decision. Originally, we thought, well, we're just going to take everything back. This would require multiple round-trip helicopter trips over 2 to 3 days. Cost a lot of money, of course, and extra time. But then we had the great idea. We got to know these fishermen, and we said, gee, maybe we'll just take back all the valuable stuff, and maybe we can give everything to our Haitian fishermen friends we made over the 2 weeks we were there. But we needed permission to Fish and Wildlife, and they said, your only requirement is to leave here, leave it the way you found it. If you want to give stuff to those guys, that's great. No problem at all. And they said, do it. And so we organized a series of trips from these fishermen in groups of 2, 3, and 4. The word got out. They came up the hill, and we gave them everything. We gave them the rest of our fuel. We gave them the cots, the tables, the chairs, all the food. We gave them our shelters. We gave them hats and shirts, our extra hats and shirts that we brought with us, and they were just blown away. Here's one guy that was lucky. He got the stepladder, and he walked all the way down that trail that I walked down, all the way to Lulu Bay with this ladder on his head and put it in his boat. And this is just one of these scenes. You know, gasoline to these guys is like gold because it costs a lot of money. And what do they do for a living? You know, they fish. So they were so happy. They were beside themselves. And what did they do to try to pay us back? They gave us some of the red snapper that they had caught, which was a really, really touching moment. They gave snapper to us. They gave some to the guys on the Electra. The guys that came down from Miami. It was really a wonderful day. Well, now it's time for the Electra to go back to Miami, and one of the operators that came in was from Hungary, Tommy. He flew into Miami, so he had to get back on the skiff to go out there, and he was scared to death. He thought he was going to fall off this, you know, off this little cradle and be eaten by sharks, but he wiggled his way all the way down to the boat and got there safely. It was just a funny moment.
Hold it. It's funny.
But you can see, you know, that worked. You know, that actually, as kludgy as it was, it worked, and it worked really well.
Well, depends on what the emergency. Put that out there saying.
Yeah. Fortunately, the weather held out, and we didn't have any horrible weather to contend with. There's the back of the Electra. You can see this boat from Miami is pretty big, and those are the two operators. The fellow in the that doesn't have a shirt on is Mike Moranis from Seattle, and there's Tommy and climbing out of the boat, and then the owner is to the right. That's George, Alpha 7 Japan Victor. So they took off for Miami, but before they took down the transport, that David. We weren't going to leave that behind. We didn't want to have anything left behind, and it was a requirement. You know, it worked well for what we needed to, but we obviously had to go. Now it was time for everybody to leave. We did in different groups as the helicopter came back and forth. But just before doing so, we climbed to the top of the lighthouse and scratched call signs up on the ceiling. Actually landed that for us. And so if you go there today, presumably you'll see the 15 call signs on the wall up there. And the Fish and Wildlife guys gave us a full-body search. That was kind of a joke. Make sure we weren't carrying any valuable souvenirs, and we were cleared to go. Actually, the best part of that was they stamped our passport. It's a very rare passport stamp for Kilo 1 or for Navaso. And it was time to go back to Jamaica. Now this is actually departing now. One of the groups leaving was shot from the top of the lighthouse. The amount of space that the helicopter pilot had, and again, they didn't have to get there. shot in a helicopter for the guys who are, really tired but happy, and we had a great time with this. As we swung around back to the Moxon Beach Resort, that place where we first landed, all of a sudden it looked like a 5-star hotel. It's pretty funny how that works out. Yes, and it was pretty tiring. It was just a lot of this afterwards. So, raise your hand if you contacted K1N. Okay, well, Larry was kind enough to send me your roster of 350 people. I looked all of the call signs up in the log, and it looks like 7 of you actually got through, which is not a big percent, 2%, and here they are. So I want to congratulate Ron, Barry, Jim, Tim, David, Lou, and Bernie for working us. And I know I saw some of your call signs, I think, just before we started, so I know you're on tonight. That's great. I'm glad you were able to work us. I'm glad to put you in the log. And so congrats on 16 QSOs from the expedition. It's awesome. Wow. Wow. We had set a target of 100,000 contacts. Well, we did a little better than that. We worked hard. We stayed focused. We didn't have any major technical problems, which all worked in our favor. So we were able to put a lot of QSOs in the log. We made almost 73,000 contacts on CW, 55 on phone, 12,000 on RIDI. We were really happy. The money band was 20 meters. We were really happy with the number of top banders, 60-meter QSOs at about 5,400. That was really good. And a couple of the guys actually got out there and made 30 satellite QSOs, working birds. And then we had a 6-meter, one of the radios was, an extra radio was on 6 meters, and we made 232 QSOs. Most of them were from South America, some from North America. Altogether, we were 14 different countries on 6 meters from Navasa using that little antenna, that little Yagi. Most of the contacts are from North America. That's no surprise. We're right in the middle of the Caribbean. Europe came in fairly strong at 32%, but we were really happy that we could put 66% of our contacts from Asia. Again, if you live in Japan, Tokyo, or Korea, some of these Japan or Indonesia rather, or Korea, it's hard to reach the Caribbean sometimes. We worked 188 different countries. There are more statistics on the website if you want to go to check those out. A few months later at the Hamvention in Dayton, we were honored by being awarded the Expedition of the Year. That's the team there. We got this really beautiful plaque. And we actually wound up on the cover of QST, the October 2015 issue. And I guess they liked this photo so much that the American Radio actually put it on their 2016 calendar, their amateur radio calendar for 2016-17, which was pretty cool. We were really honored. When we left, it was ranked 2. Today, if you look, you see it's 44 on the list. So those 140,000 contacts helped drive the demand down. But the demand never really goes away. If a group went out there the next week, there'd be a huge pileups because people still need credit for this DXCC target or entity around the world. So we think we did a pretty good job, mission accomplished. But remember, it was easier to get to the moon than it was to get to go to Navasa. Now, I have one of the guys on our team. Was one of the operators from Miami, a young fellow, is an expert quadcopter operator. He has a drone, and he did this. I'm going to show you this. This is, I think, a 4.5-minute video to just end things. He actually did a walk all the way from Lulu Bay up to the lighthouse, and you're going to be able to kind of relive that with him. If you don't like music, just turn your sound down. That's him standing there right there. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, I'll say that was very, very entertaining. Very interesting.
Yeah, I apologize for going over our time. I tried to hold this to about an hour, but
it was great. It was very, and the photography was excellent. Did you have a professional photographer? Or was it just one of the operators who was with a camera?
we had 2 or 3 guys that it's one of their hobbies is photography, and they brought good stuff. We have a policy on these trips. We just get a flash drive and exchange photos because there's always somebody capturing a scene or two that you don't. So when the de-exposition's over, we consolidate all the photographs on a hard drive, and everyone has then all of the photos or videos that were taken. But there were a couple of exceptional photographers there, and they, yeah, you can tell we really were happy with the way they turned out. This fellow did the, this video at the end. He's really talented. He's done a couple others that for on one of our other trips. It was amazing when we went to Baker Island. He did the same thing, and that just adds just so much more value to the memory of this whole thing. After going through all the slides, you in his 4-minute video or 5-minute video, you got to see most of what what I showed you, over again, but in just from a different perspective, and so we were really happy about that.
Mary?
Yeah. John, we have a question. You covered it in the presentation, but if you could say again about the antennas on the top of the lighthouse.
Yes, we used wire antennas. They were all either slopers or dipoles for every band. Basically, they were cut. One of the guys was W2GD. His name is John Crivelli. He's also he's a professional tower installer and antenna installer, as well as one of the most outstanding CW operators. So he was like a kid in a candy shop because he had brought all of the stuff with him on the hope that we'd be able to use the lighthouse. We didn't know if we would, but he was fully prepared to have groups climb up those stairs and start stringing the dipoles out of the windows and the sides. It didn't, it didn't take very long to do it at all, but we had these resonant dipoles that for every major band. It was just fantastic. We didn't expect to be able to use a lighthouse for that. That's why we were going to bring the verticals instead. We wound up leaving the verticals in Jamaica. We didn't need to transport them over.
How much power were you transmitting?
500 watts. 500 watts, except I think we had a kilowatt amplifier on 160, specifically for 160.
So you're using the KX3 with the amplifier for the 500 watts?
K3, not the KX3. Yes.
KX3.
Yes. No, the K3.
Oh, the K3. Okay.
The K3 is a 100-watt amplifier, right? A watt transceiver. It 30 or 40 watts drives the KPA 500 to 500 watts. With 500 watts, if you've got good antennas in a good location, you don't need more than that. You can work the world, and that's why that particular combination is great. Also, you don't need 220. KPA 500 runs on 110 volts, so we could have, if we needed 220, we would have arranged for that, but it makes it a lot easier. It's a lot easier to ship them. The KPA 500 isn't very heavy. It has a self-contained power supply, and the ergonomics between the K3 and the KPA 500 are perfect. You can put they don't take much surface space to put them next to each other. And they just work well together. They talk to each other really well. And so you want to have, stuff that's easy to operate and reliable. And those two make a perfect pair for the expeditions.
Mary has her hand up. Mary?
Okay, John, did you have a lot of rain? And you talked about the heat, but you didn't have sea breezes?
It's some breezes that felt good, and we had just a brief shower, I would say, one day, and kind of clouded over. It rained for 20 minutes, and then there was a rainbow, I think. That was it. You know, it was very dry most of the time. I think we were told that it was hot and it could be humid there, but we had no idea it was going to be over 100 degrees. I mean, it's the Caribbean. You don't think of that. You go down to the Caribbean to relax and have vacations and to go out swimming and fun on the beach. But this place is very different. It was maybe because we were so far inland, and we just didn't have the breezes at all.
Matheson?
Hey there, guys. I just wanted to say thank you. You just reminded me that I did indeed work you guys when you were down there. So I don't know how you got your numbers, but I'm a new member of the club. But worked you guys twice on 20 meters. So
okay. All right.
You can take the trip.
I got my information from Club Log. So if you go on Club Log and if you put your call sign, I might have missed that. I'm not sure why, but
no. I didn't do the hard count, but
oh, that's all right. Congratulations, Matheson.
Yeah.
It's great.
It was amazing. I helped prepare the Herd Island expedition. We launched them out of here, so it's good to be able to support it.
Excellent.
Couldn't afford to go. I was in college then, but
there's always tomorrow.
John, why did you not carry more of your cargo over on the Electra ship to reduce the number of helicopter trips?
Because we weren't sure that catenary idea was going to work. We didn't want to be 100. We didn't want it to be so dependent on it. George was pretty confident, but it was the first time anybody tried that. So we decided to load the dice in our favor a little bit more and make a few more trips using the helicopter. But as soon as he put that catenary up, and the first time it was in use, we started breathing a sigh of relief because he had a lot of water that he brought with him, and we knew we could have access to that. It was just one of those decisions to try to push the odds in our favor using the helicopter. We were happy to have both. We were really lucky to have George able to take the time out from his schedule to go down there for 2 weeks. But we had done some calculations on kind of the minimal viable configuration to make sure that we were going to be okay, that we have enough water, and we did all right. I think the thing that surprised us a bit was the heat. So we started using water at a little faster rate than we had calculated.
If you were to do one thing differently, what would it have been?
I think we would have been probably paying a little more attention to the and so, yeah, there were cuts and bruises and bites and things that we would have maybe worn a little different clothing from time to time. As far as the operation itself, it went off almost without a hitch. We didn't have any technical problems, so it's more being more prepared for the harsh environment that we were in is probably the best thing I could say.
I didn't see mosquito nettings. I didn't have a problem.
We didn't see any mosquitoes.
Mm-hmm.
There's no stagnant water there.
Oh.
Hey, Dick, you have your hand up. Dick? You're muted.
I have a question.
No, wait a minute. No, hold it. Dick,
hold
excuse
on,
me. Hang on.
Put your hand up. Please go into reactions and touch raise hand if you want to ask a question, please.
Raise finger, not hand. I mean,
raise
hand.
Sorry, I can't do it. Well, I guess maybe I can.
Dick, do you still have a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me get my thought back. You said you didn't expect to be able to use the lighthouse. Did you really try, or was the response you were getting from the government so much no that you just let you deal with it some other way? Or tell us a little bit about the issue with the going there without having an idea that you'd be able to use the lighthouse.
Well, we had seen photos of that place, and we knew it was pretty rusted out. We knew that the spiral staircase going all the way to the top was pretty rusted and unsafe. We made an assumption that we were not going to be able to use it. then we got there and surveyed it and thought, well, if we're careful, we can get up to the top, and if we're, you know, this will be a godsend to be able to put these wire antennas up. We never thought we were going to get permission from Fish and Wildlife. We decided not to ask ahead of time. And so we got there, and as we got to know this group, we could tell that they were rooting for our success as much as we were. And that's half the battle. If you can, you know, form a good working relationship built on trust and rapport, wonderful things can happen. And they understood why we wanted to do that. They got it, and they said, you know, we're just make sure you guys are safe. If you know, that it's you got to be very careful. And so they kind of took a risk on us, but it paid off because we didn't have to bring the vertical antennas over. And those dipoles worked beautifully on all these bands. We had a 40-meter dipole that worked on 15. It was unbelievable. And we just left the verticals back in Jamaica, as I said. We decided not to ask for permission ahead of time because we wanted to get there and see it with our own two eyes and see whether we even wanted to look at if it was at all feasible. After we got there, within the first couple of hours, we realized it would be a real jewel if we could do it, and it worked out well for us.
Matheson, you have another question? Oh, I'm sorry,
No, that's right. Go ahead.
Matheson, you have a follow-up?
He's muted.
Yeah, Matheson, you're muted. Going once? Going twice? Okay, Pete, you have a question?
Yeah, John, that was just amazing. Your presentation was just amazing. And then the expedition was even more amazing. Now, maybe this was referenced in your presentation, but had someone else done this on this island before? And if so, about how many? And how about after you guys? Have other de-expeditions occurred there?
And there were several brave folks over the last 30 years that have gone there. They got permission to operate, because if you don't get permission, then the QSOs don't count. You have to get permission, get a permit, and then the American Radio Relay League will recognize the operation as being a valid operation. So there were definitely people years ago that went. They braved the environment. They figured out how to get there. They were carrying boat anchors on their shoulder to get up to the lower levels and operate. But you know, this place is only for the brave and the foolish, I guess. Since we left, there hasn't been anybody that's organize themselves to go back there again. But I think we left on good terms, and we're building as a hobby. We're building good relationships with Fish and Wildlife, which is the group that you need permission to go to places like this, to Palmyra Island, to Baker, and they realize that you know, we can leave a place cleaner than when we got there. If we go to an island, as I did it to Baker Island or to Palmyra, unfortunately a lot of these islands are polluted because there's a lot of plastics debris that falls off the cargo ships and cruise ships, get washed up on these islands out in the Pacific. So as a group, if we can take an hour or two or half a day and go out and bag some of that stuff, as we help kind of clean the environment a bit, we use our time to do that when we're not operating. They love that because at least we're doing our part to help, you know, clean the environment. We didn't have a chance to do that on the Vasa. That's a harsh environment, and we were happy enough to just get through the 2 weeks we were there. But the trust level is pretty high because we didn't harm the birds, and that was how we were being judged more than anything on the Vasa. Let's see. I don't know if I answered quite there, but if you go, there's a list of all of the expeditions that went before us. I think it's on the website, but nobody is organized to go back there. But I know that if a group wants to and gets permission to go, that place is still really, even though it's 44 on the list or whatever, it's just a rare operation. It's hard. You need to not only get your group to there safe on the island and all, but you need to coordinate time-wise with the Fish and Wildlife Department, because they are going to go there with you. If they're not available, you're not going. They don't let anybody go there without supervision.
Thank you, John.
Okay. James, PR6JB.
Thank you, John. That was excellent. I really enjoyed that. A question I have on the lighthouse: was there still a structure in it, a staircase, or how did you get to the upper levels?
Okay, well, let's see. I can show you that. I'll show you one photograph that maybe I went by it too fast.
Was that rusty spiral stairs, right?
Yes.
Must have been there.
It's okay. That's okay. So this is what it looks like.
So, John, they didn't have to clean the rust off, huh?
Let's see. They didn't have us clean the rust off.
You had to bring
No, we were going to clean the rust off. We could hardly walk in there. You can see the case. You can see there's actually call signs on the wall of some other groups that were there years and years ago, back in the 60s or 70s. But yeah, the handrail was pretty rickety, pretty rusted. But the stairs were strong. I mean, that was the first thing we had to. If we couldn't navigate those stairs with confidence, not all of 15 of us had to go up there. There were a few hardy folks that volunteered, started at the top and worked their way down. Basically, we're talking about string and wires, right? So it's not that difficult once you start at the top if you're organized to do that. It's not like this was not a daily event where we went up and down these stairs a lot. They basically were used to install the dipoles, and then maybe go up and take a few photographs one time around, and that was about it, because we really didn't want to chance it. I don't know. Did that answer your question?
Yes, yes, it did. I can see that down at the bottom, it looks like it's severely corroded. It was looking like about ready to give away any moment. So
yeah.
That was what I was wondering, just how nervous you were about doing it.
A little nervous, yeah. But once we cleaned it out, and this whole area over here was perfect. It was a perfect space to set up 3 CW stations with the folding tables that we had. It was like made to order. And that was our big concern. Where are we going to operate? Well, by allowing us to operate there, not only did we were we able to use it to string the dipoles, but we didn't have to bring another shelter over. Remember, if we didn't have the use of this lobby in the lighthouse, we would have had to set up another one of those white shelters to use with folding tables in there, and that's where we would have operated. So that was another huge bonus, using the lobby of the lighthouse for 3 CW stations.
Was there any remnant of the lighthouse lens there, or had that been removed?
It's there. And I think I had one of the photos on that. Let's see if I can find it real quick here. Maybe this is it. Well, the one with the flag, right? Let's see. What did I do with that? Sorry. Well, this might. You can see it there. There's still some glass in there. Some of it's shattered. Some of it's not, actually. It's amazing. Yeah.
But the lens itself?
Oh no, that's gone.
Long gone?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Matheson, are you ready for your question, or do you still have one? Your hand is
I'll
up.
put my hand down.
Okay. Pete, do you still have a question? You're
No,
muted.
not me. Sorry.
Go away.
Put your hand down. Okay, Mr. Wong, you had your hand up for a moment. You still have your question?
Yeah. Yes. My question is, was it okay with Fish and Game for all of you guys to leave your call signs at the lighthouse there?
Yes, they no problem with that at all. They didn't consider it, facing the the lighthouse, which was in pretty bad shape anyway, as you saw. And so no, they figured that that we weren't going to do any damage to the lighthouse. So no, they didn't have any problem with that at all.
Oh, yeah, I thought they might have considered it more graffiti or something.
There was so much there already.
They did.
No, I mean, as far as they're concerned, they might be happy if some crew came in there and demolished that whole thing. It's more work for them in the long run, maybe to have to even worry about it. But it was very well built by the Coast Guard. It's still standing tall after been through since 1917. So it's been through a lot. I'm sure. It's stalwart. It doesn't want to go anywhere. Yes, Larry.
So how large is that island?
It's square feet. It's like the size of Central Park. So
well, I was just wondering how long. It looks kind of long and narrow. I was wondering if
it's 2 square miles.
Okay, and I take it there's no inhabitants on the island now at all. Is that correct?
No. The only people who stay there from time to time are the Haitian fishermen when they want to cheat and stay overnight. They climb up the rocks in their bare feet. They don't even wear sandals. They're amazing, and they camp out there. They eat some fish. They stay overnight, and then they fish some more. Now, who knows who's there during the week or the month, because no one's there to watch everything every day. But there's a lot of boats floating around out there. There are planes that fly around, so you never know. That's why it's kind of a mysterious island. Most people, if you ask 100 people, where's Devos Island? Maybe 1 out of 100 will tell you where it is. It's just not talked about very much. It's not very well known. When you talk about the Caribbean, that's not a place that most people know about.
Yeah, but when you talk about Backwana, I think of caves. Are there caves on this island then?
Down below there might be. Yeah, when if you start down below, there could be. There definitely we saw some video and some photographs where there's cutouts down below and where you could actually there might be. I'm sure they're underground portals or something there, but not something we explored.
Did you see a lot of bats then when you were there?
Yes, we did. We did see some bats. Yeah, there were some bats in the lighthouse.
Okay, Pete has his hand up again.
Yeah, just one more question, and you don't have to go into great detail, obviously, but how can you say something about how you constructed the dipole? What size wire? How did line into the middle of the dipole? How did it attach to the ground?
They were all pre-made. They were all pre-made by W2GD. Brought them with him in a suitcase, thinking he'd never get to use them. So I don't really know. I would guess it's 12 gauge wire, maybe 14. It wouldn't be anything greater than 14. The gauge of the wire, and then I don't know, the coax cable. I think it was all RG213. It might have been RG8U. Probably combinations of those two. They were all cut. I mean, they're all cut for the band. So it was a matter of just rolling them out, and then stringing them out. In some cases, they weren't perfectly They weren't perfect. They might have been sloped a bit because we had to tie them to the hotel and maybe to some of the trees out there, as I recall.
Oh, they were horizontal.
Yeah, most of them.
I thought
So not the top, not the 160 and 80. They were slopers.
the dipole slopers.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
In bed?
No.
No.
No, they were center fed.
Okay, Rich, you're next.
Yeah, I just wanted the Fish and Game guys that went out there.
Yep.
Did they stay in the whole 2 weeks for you?
Oh yeah, it was a requirement. We paid for their travel and fed them. They had automatic weapons. They actually, one of their jobs is to thin out a goat herd. There's a herd of wild goats there, and one of their jobs was to thin that herd out. And so they did that a little bit. I don't know the details, but I knew that's why one of the things they did. And they made sure that we were safe, you know, and in a good way. You know, they weren't watching over us, you know, trying to correct what we were doing. They just want to make sure that we weren't doing anything. And, it was a new experience for them because they never heard of ham radio operators before. I mean, they knew generally what the hobby is about, but you know, they got really interested in why we were there, what we were trying to accomplish, why we brought what we brought. I think they were pretty amazed that we basically set up a small city for 2 weeks from nothing.
Yeah, I just wondered what they did for 2 weeks. Okay.
With fresh meat.
Well,
go cops.
They went around. They walked around the island and inspected to make sure there was nobody there. Nobody left anything strange behind. Yeah, we were paying that much attention to what they were doing. We were just happy that they were leaving us alone most of the time.
We have one of the questions in the chat now. If you were able to eat any of the goats they shot.
I actually have to tell you that we had. Yes, we had goat curry. You remember I told you that they brought a dinner up from the boat? That's what that was. Curried goat. Tastes really good when you're really hungry.
I bet it did. It did.
Okay, no more hands up or questions in the chat that I know of. Anything else? I have one. I'm wondering, do you have to be on physical dry land to do the expeditions? You couldn't have set up radio on the Electra, 50 feet offshore and have that count?
Wow, look at you, Mike. You're talking about the expedition of the future. And I'll tell you something. The fellow that I mentioned, Fearless George,
yeah,
he's invented something called a radio in a box, which he's perfecting. Imagine that he takes his boat and travels to the Bahamas and goes on the island on the Bahama, one of the islands there, and he sets up a generator, an antenna, and a radio, and he uses a 900 megahertz wireless link from the boat to operate the radio. And he's already done this now 3 times, and everything is done from the boat. The only requirement that the ARRL has is that the transmitter must be physically on the DXCC entity. The operator can be anywhere in the world. So the answer to your question is yes. That's exactly what's going to happen in the future, because it's the only way we're going to be able to get to some places that are just really really dangerous and impossible. An example would be Bouvet, which is out in the Indian Ocean, and one group tried to get there last year and was turned. Mother Nature said not today, and forced this group to go back home after a year of planning. They started out in Punta Arenas, Chile, and wound up in Bouvet, and then had to go to South Africa to go home. So they spent 31 days on a boat, and they never got to operate because the weather was so bad that they couldn't get to Bouvet. And so someday, somewhere, you're going to see that type of remote de-expedition where somebody will put a station someplace and then operate from offshore. And George is hell-bent to do this. He just built a brand new catamaran to allow him to take himself around the world to do this. That's what he's going to do for the rest of his life, is just go to rare DXCC entities. He's got to get permission to go. But imagine how much easier it's going to be to get permission to go when you don't need 15 people to go to a place like Navassa. You only need 4 or 5 people on the boat to operate, and you're not going to bother the birds because you're just not visiting them either very much. So yeah, Mike, you've put your hand on kind of the solution for the future to get to rare places. Stay tuned.
Sean,
Mike, you sign up.
Sean, you're next.
Has anybody done a DXpedition Point Nemo?
Wait, I don't know where Point Nemo is. Where's
It's
Point
the remotest location in the world. It's in the middle of the Atlantic, and it's where they drop rockets when they deorbit it.
Okay, what's the entity and who oversees that place?
Nobody does. It's in the middle of the ocean.
Okay, so I'm connecting on exactly where who would give permission to go. That you just don't go to a place like that. You go through the governing body, whoever's overseeing that. And when you say they drop, who's they?
Anybody that's launching rockets. It's just kind of a pre-positioned place that people agree on they should drop rocket parts there.
So
there's no land there.
So are you thinking of trying to convince 15 radio operators to go there? Probably that's not going to happen too soon. But you've got my curiosity up. I'll have to look into that because we're always interested in hard to get to places, but there has to be a legitimate reason to go there to operate because if it's not on the DXC list, the question is, and why would we go there? So if it's on the list, yes. We wouldn't go just because it's a remote place to go and have fun. It costs $500,000 to do this stuff. You can imagine this one trip, by the time you add up all of the efforts, including getting a helicopter or a boat or both, it's not a cheap. You just don't fly in and do this. So yeah, you pick and choose the expeditions carefully, and so and there aren't that many guys that do this, by the way. You know, there are a few that can take the time and effort to go out. So, but yeah, we're always interested in rare places as long as we can get permission to go, and if the QSOs count.
Okay, anyone else?
You guys have been great. I haven't seen anybody doze off yet tonight. That's my first, that's always.
Cal posted a link in the chat to the OAA.
All right.
The Point Nemos he was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got that here too.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. Thank you for bringing that one up. I've enjoyed my time with you guys. If you want to go on another trip sometime, let me know. I can. I'll take you out to Baker Island, where to celebrate. Actually, it was a commemorative trip to celebrate what would have been Amelia Earhart's safe landing. She didn't make it on Howland Island years ago, and then we went out to Palmyra, so the Nature Conservancy. That was interesting, and then also Wake Island, where unfortunately there were some civilian contractors that were accidentally massacred during the war. We went out there as a commemorative. It was a commemorative trip. Anyway, it's fun. I enjoy doing this because I get a chance to relive the too. So thank you for that opportunity.
Well, y'all.
Last call. Last call for questions.
I got a fun one. Have you thought of doing something closer, like Catalina Island? Anything off the coast of...
That's what you're going to do, Matheson. Come on.
The $5,000 trip.
Just get your radio right over there.
We got a lot of hands over in the San Francisco Amateur Radio Club, and yeah, they keep seeing it out there and wondering.
Well, there's a lot of IOTAs.
Right. They just they activated Angel Island earlier this year during COVID. You know, they were able to go out there and see distance.
Yeah.
Parks on the air. There are a lot of opportunities.
Yes, there are. The Farallones would be a good target. Not many people go to the Farallones to operate. And if you can get permission to operate from Alcatraz, that would be great too. I'll say good night, and thank you for hosting me, Larry.
All right. Well, thank you. Jan, I'm going to pass it over to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, John, again. That was absolutely a mind-blowing presentation. Nobody could sleep over this movie. So thank you again, and I have nothing else to add. So back to you, Larry.
So were there any other questions? I guess before K6MM leaves, I don't see any other questions. No questions. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming tonight. I think that was really, really enjoyable. If everybody puts down $20, we get to Kevin Island maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe exactly. So anyway, thank you everybody. I will talk to you when I talk to you. And good to see some folks that we haven't seen before. Let me see who. Kind of looking through the videos here, the images. But anyway, those who were visitors for the first time, we really appreciate it. And new club member, been a club member for maybe about 4 months, showed up tonight for his first MDARC general meeting, and we're really glad to see him as well. So, if anybody has nothing else to say, I will say, a biento, au revoir.
Hey, Larry.
Bruce?
Yeah. I've got a friend that used to go out to the Fairlawns to tag sharks and stuff for boa. And from listening to his story, there ain't no way in the world they're going to get me out there.
No, I agree. I agree. Yeah, it's pretty. I think Fairlawns are pretty rough.
Yeah, they're rough. The seal, you have to fight the seals and the rats.
Bruce, hey, want to go next week? I think I want to go water skiing out there.
Yeah.
Well, remind me, you guys. Up until recently, I believe there was an AT&T operator station out there, right? There were phone lines out there?
I don't know.
That's what I know of. The AT&T underwater line to Hawaii, I believe, comes out north up around where?
Maybe Point Reyes?
Point Reyes, yeah. It comes out and goes across the ocean bottom. But
okay.
I don't know anything up there. I don't even think it's got a lighthouse anymore. Or a light.
So, I know Jim K6, JB, he was wanting to climb up those stairs up to that lighthouse to the very top and look for that lens, right, Jim?
No, I wasn't too anxious to do that. I was just curious